I think my husband had an emotional affair. And I'll never know the truth. A woman, Beth, 30 SF, moved into our estate a few weeks ago. A single mother with split custody with her ex. My husband, Carl, 32M, is the chairperson of our HOA. A week or two after moving in, she calls my husband to ask his assistance in mounting her TV on the wall. He goes and helps. A few days later, her dishwasher was leaking. He goes and helps. This wasn't a problem for me, as he always helps everyone in the estate with little problems. As the weeks go on, she constantly needs help with things. Always calling him for help, he goes. I now started getting annoyed, as we haven't been in the best state because I've just had a baby. He's 4 months old. And we've had fights where I felt he wasn't helping me enough. I gave natural birth and am still bleeding now and then, and my pelvis is still readjusting. Carl goes over to help Beth again. Even our neighbors, who we are very close with, commented that it's odd and offers that we do a lunch or something to welcome her and be friends, as she just moved here and doesn't really know anyone. Mind you, he hasn't done this for other people. Lunch happens, and she calls me by the wrong name. I correct her, and she's very giggly about it. She seems okay. A bit too over the top in terms of trying to be dominant in a conversation. But I think she's okay. She comes over again one more time for a barbecue a week or two later, and Outler close neighbors join. They think she's okay too. Then that week, while I'm at work, she comes over to say hi to my husband. He works from home. She's a teacher and schools are currently closed. She shows up wearing workout clothes. I got a text from my neighbor that also works from home saying Beth is there. I leave it, as my husband is very social and we have cameras in the house. The next day, same thing. I mention that I'm glad she's made a friend. My husband agrees and that she's a cool chick. This happens about 4 more times. I then have to travel for work, 4 days away, and then she came over almost every single day, in workout clothes. One night I watched the cameras, and they were sitting by the table eating together, and I just lost it. My husband is an avid gamer, so he plays games every night, eating dinner by his PC. I always beg him to sit by me and eat with me. He does it maybe once or twice a week. I called my husband after Beth had left and told him that these visits while I'm not home are making me very uncomfortable. She's been over 3 times while I was home, but constantly there when it's just him. He apologized and said he will set boundaries. Great. This discussion was on the Thursday night. Friday morning, Beth rocks up again. I keep my cool, because Carl said he will talk to her. I get home the Friday night, and we have the discussion again. We are both calm and all that. Monday morning, our baby got sick. Carl takes him to the doctor and tells me that I need to be at home Tuesday and Wednesday because baby can't go to baby school because he is sick. Okay, cool. I come home early on Monday and look after baby. Monday afternoon, Beth and her ex have a chat about an offer my hubby had made to the ex about him coming over, and also being friend sex lives in our estate too. Do you think Beth texts my husband about this chat that happened on the Monday? Nope, I am home Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Thursday morning when I go to the office, Beth rocks up to chat about it. I lost it completely. Because now it's been a week since I told Carl about my discomfort. We had a very serious discussion that night where I said that if I see her here again when I am not here, I know he has no regard for my feelings. He was adamant about staying friends and asked for a compromise. I said that the compromise is that she does not come here when I am not here. The next morning he went to go talk to her about it, and apparently she was extremely apologetic, really wanting to be friends with me too. But she almost never came over when I was at home. She hasn't been here since then 2 weeks now, and I have not had a text or whatever from her. He refused to show me the text with her, and I told him that it will always bug me if he doesn't show me. He said, so be it. I honestly think he was having an emotional affair, but I will never know. My close neighbor told me about a conversation she had with him while I was at work a few weeks ago. He told me you were jealous, and I said, well, can you blame her? Then I said that he drops everything for these women, but doesn't do the same for you. And he said, that's what OP said. Then he went silent and changed the subject. Just needed to vent. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. That's really painful. You are right to feel hurt, even if not physical. The secrecy and attention he gave her crossed a boundary. Reply. He honestly made me feel like I was acting crazy, because he only spoke to her after I went to Lulu. But thank you, commenter 2. He crossed many boundaries. And this is something that you need to go to couples counseling about. You have every right to be concerned and upset. I would tell him outright that he had an emotional affair. Not only did you see it, but the neighbors saw it. And his lack of being forthcoming and letting you see the text messages is indicative of that, and may show there is more than an emotional affair. I would go see an attorney to get you affairs in order in effort to protect yourself and your child. Additionally, I would start sleeping separately for now too. Commenter 3. Your neighbor is a hero, calling him out for doing things for her and not you. Hopefully with someone else saying it, it actually registers in his truck head. Even if it's not emotional cheating, he has no regard for your feelings, or helping you out. But happy to spend time helping other women. Totally inappropriate. Update. I think my husband had an emotional affair, and I'll never know the truth. I managed to see the messages between them. Nothing of a sexual nature at all, not even flirty. There was a day where he texted her at 07:30, but only texted me at 09:45 after I had sent him a text at 06:50. But that's as bad as it gets. He does not know that I've seen the texts, so I've kept it quiet. We had a massive fight a few days after I made the original post, and I told him that I am considering separation. I think that made him realize how serious this all is. It's pretty much a blur. But I've started going to therapy to deal with past traumas. And I am on antidepressants. Carl joined me in my last session, and I think he realizes what Beth's intentions were. As my male psychologist said, that was very unusual behavior from her. That she is a threat and has intentions. Carl and I are doing great now. But the reason why I am posting this update is to show what Beth said to me after I decided to send her a message to bury the hatchet and move on. These are the texts. Me, dear Beth. I wanted to share what's been on my mind. I was genuinely glad when we first met. It felt like I'd found someone new with a similar personality, and I thought there was potential for a real friendship. But as time has passed, I've felt hurt and disrespected by some of your choices. As someone who has also experienced betrayal, I would have hoped you'd understand how it came across when you frequently visited my husband while I wasn't home. Yet never came when I was there. You had opportunities to build a friendship with me too. I've just had a baby, and during such a vulnerable time, it was especially difficult seeing how often you reached out to Carl for help. Certain things, like your son calling him Dada, crossed lines that made me deeply uncomfortable. I tried to brush off a lot, but when you avoided coming by during the days I was home, only to return the moment I was back at work, it became impossible to ignore. I've spoken to Carl about his role in this, but as a woman, I also expected you to recognize when enough was enough. In my position, I believe you would have felt the same way. I've acknowledged everything now and I'm moving forward. Whether it was you seeking attention or Carl enjoying it, I was willing to let things go. Until both of your actions crossed into what I can only call unacceptable. Beth then sent a long voice note detailing how it wasn't her intention to hurt me, how she just naturally gravitates towards men, blah blah, and how me being an introvert she just didn't want to be in my space, blah blah blah, then sent, I really like you guys and hope we can still be friends. But in saying that I will respect the boundaries and your wishes. Me. I appreciate your message, Beth. So is that a yes we can be friends? Me, if I'm honest, I still hold a lot of resentment. Mainly because what he was freely giving you. Attention and effort. I was begging for and not receiving. He tried his best to reach a compromise with me. Telling me that you were over one day to ask advice because you met someone at a bar and wanted his opinion if the guy is interested or not. So I received a lot of mixed stories. Because I remember you saying that you're happy being single and not looking. I am working through my emotions, as I have a lot of unresolved trauma, and Carl's constant defending you left a very bad taste in my mouth. I don't know if it would be possible while we are still working on things, as this has caused a very big rift between us. I realized my mistake here when I gave her a good feeling because my husband defended her. The next part she sent a bunch of texts, Beth. Carl defended me because he wanted you to realize him and I are good friends, Beth. I don't want to be that person, but I do think you need to take a step back and also put yourself in our shoes. Beth, you have a good husband who loves you and your son, and wants you build a beautiful life with you guys. But you can't allow insecurities or misunderstandings to interfere with that. Beth, work on things that's fine, but don't push someone away that is wanting to be both your friends. Beth, take time to think. I won't push it, Beth. What I mean by this is to trust your husband. He is incredibly loyal to you, but he is a social, helpful person who gets along with women as his friends, and you need to accept that and trust that there is no ill intentions. And he is genuinely just building friendships. She literally sent this in a space of 6 minutes. Me, sure, I'll put myself in your shoes. Visiting a man only when his wife isn't home. Constantly asking him for help with menial things around the house. I reached out to bury the hatchet. And then you spit out about I mustn't let my insecurities get in the way of someone's blatant disrespectful actions? LOL. And again, I don't care who he is friends with, whether it's a penis or a vagina. I'm not jealous by nature, as he's had dinner with exes. We've had threesomes and we constantly comment on women that we see in public. But when something makes me uncomfortable and I ask that the visits while I'm away stop, then I'm insecure. Thanks, Beth. No OP, that's not what I'm saying. I was trying to get you to understand that you have a loving and loyal husband and need to allow him to be friends with others. I did explain to you from my side why I did visit when you weren't there, and still did say I will respect you boundaries moving forward but would really like to maintain our friendship. He can be friends with whoever the fuck he wants to. I didn't tell him to cut you off. I only asked that you not visit when I'm not here. That's it. If he ended the friendship, that was him. Your blatant disrespect now honestly killed any chances. I said to you that it's not a good idea now while we work on things. And you decided that your fucking opinion mattered. If I made a mistake, I would never put the blame on the other woman. Blaming her insecurities and saying she must let her husband be friends with other women. Shame on you, Beth. I will give you time. There's nothing to think about. You showed exactly who you are. Your narcissistic need for attention led you to overstep. Whatever place you imagined you had in Carl's life doesn't exist. He even sees how disrespectful and unacceptable your behavior was. All of us have lost every ounce of respect for you. Enjoy the life you've made for yourself. I then blocked her. My husband was appalled by her behavior and said that it's completely unacceptable. He did not text her to say that. But he did decide that cutting her off was the only option. He promised he would tell me if she texted him, and he hasn't said anything, so I am trusting him. She has moved out of the estate and is no longer part of our lives. I wish I could have given her a proper send-off, a glitter bomb or raw fish down her car vents, but I was too preoccupied with work and my baby. We are doing much better, and he sees how much his actions have hurt me. He is making more of an effort to make me feel better and happy and secure in our marriage. Top comments, commenter 1. Why are you telling this potential homewrecker all your personal information? Stop texting her. You're just giving her the upper hand here, spilling the beans on every facet of your relationship with your husband. Stop. I don't think this is the end of it. He's telling you what you want to hear. She's telling you things about your husband as if you don't know him. He'll be loving it. This is going one way, and I hope you see it and take control before they manipulate you further. Commenter 2. While it may have been cathartic OP, you have her so much information, ammo to use about your relationship. And the way she's acting, it seems your husband painted a very different picture of things, to give her the impression this was acceptable behavior. I hope things work out between you and your husband, though. Commenter 3. You told her way too much. When she asks if you can still be friends, say no. Don't blurt out more of your personal information. It gives her ammunition to argue. Commenter 4. There is power in silence. Just saying, you should have never texted her in the first place. Don't let people who are trying to get between you know that anything they have done has any power in your relationship. New update. Hi all, I've read through all the comments and did some thinking. I realized that I stuck my whole damn leg in my mouth. But I was so caught up in the heat of the moments. I guess it was a mix of me being on new medication, anger that my husband would not just tell her to fuck off, and me trying to set the picture of me not being anything close to jealous. I realized my mistake, and it is what it is. To those saying fake, I don't really care. That's why I posted on a venting sub. Even though things are going better now, and we are in therapy, I still hold resentment because he outright refused to block her while she lived in the estate, saying, what if there's an emergency? I can't block a tenant. And he refused to call her out on her behavior because he doesn't want drama. I respect his decision, but it still hurts. We've been together for nearly 10 years, and I tell him that sometimes I feel he cares about other people's emotions more than mine. I pretty much am just keeping a low profile now, spending time with my son, and trying to focus on the happiness that I do have. Whatever decisions he makes now going forward, I will address it when it happens. I was not in a good mental space when this whole thing happened. I am growing as a person and learning to control my emotions. Also to control what I just blurt out when I am upset. Thank you for everyone's input. It's not healthy for me to keep dwelling on this. I am moving on now, whether my husband wants to move on with me or keep to his old ways. I'll cross that bridge when I get there. And I have a plan for if things do go sideways. Thank you all. Stories number 2. Aita for doing a group Halloween costume with my stepdaughters that their mother doesn't approve of. I 35F am the stepmother to 2 lovely 10-year-old twin girls who I adore. I have been married to their father, 38M, for 5 years, and we dated for 2 years before that. I consider myself very close to them, and we always have fun whenever they stay with me and their father. They recently asked what kinds of movies I watched when I was their age, so it led to me digging out some old classics, most notably The Parent Trap. Of all the older movies I showed them, this one was their favorite. I think they got a kick out of seeing a movie about twins. They even delighted in the fact that in their opinion I look like Meredith Blakett's The Hair. I think no way am I as gorgeous as Elaine Hendricks. It has become an inside joke of us, with me often putting on her voice and acting the part while they fall into hysterical giggles. My husband has even gotten into it and playing the clueless Nick when we get into this playful spirit. The girls are staying with us for Halloween. They alternate who has them on holidays, and whoever has them for Halloween is in charge of the costume. The girls asked if I would do a group costume with them. I was touched and told them of course, and asked them what they wanted to do. I should have seen it coming. They wanted to do The Parent Trap, with them as the girls and me as Meredith. I found it harmless and agreed. My husband found it funny and said he'd even dress as Nick then. I got a call from their mother today telling me she'd heard of the costume and she didn't approve, that she felt it wasn't appropriate. I at first was touched and assumed she worried about their stepmother being portrayed as a wicked gold digger, and told her it was fine. It was just an inside joke that had occurred that sparked this. That wasn't the issue. She didn't think it was appropriate for me to do a group costume with her daughters at all, and that it was clearly lazy and I was forcing it, as why else would her daughters want to do a costume from an old movie? I got rather upset here but tried to stay calm on the phone, and I told her she might not approve, but it was harmless, and I'd been in the girl's life for 7 years at this point. My husband, who was in the room during the call, could see I was getting upset, so took the phone off of me and began to get into it with his ex-wife, telling her that she could have all the issues she wanted, but it was an entirely proper costume for their age, and it had been the girls who suggested it, reminding her it was up to him what they dressed as this year, and he'd approved of it. I got him to calm down as he was getting upset, and the call ended rather tersely. I just feel awful about this whole thing, and I wonder if I should just bow out of matching the girls in costume if it will prevent further problems. I just know this will be a bigger thing down the line. Comments. Commenter 1. NTA: the girl's mother isn't upset about the costume. She's upset that her daughters love you enough to want to do a group costume with you. This is 100% about her own jealousy and insecurity. Don't back down, the girls asked you. And it would hurt them if you pulled out now because their mom threw a fit. Reply: I really don't want to back down. It means a lot to me that the girls asked me. I just worry that this could cause worse tension, which could be bad for the girls. I also hate that she feels jealous and insecure, as I think you're right there. I love the girls like they're my own, but I will never replace their mother. Commenter 2 NTA. But I'm curious. When you say old movie, do you mean the actually old one, or the one with Lindsay Lohan? If we are calling the latter movie old, I'm going to start shriveling up. Reply: the 1998 movie with Lindsay Lohan, I'm afraid. Trust me, I know how you feel, but to them it's old. Commenter 3. You're NTA, but I'm trying to wrap my head around the fact that the 1998 version of The Parent Trap is an old movie. I wonder what the girls would think of the original version. Sounds like their mom is jealous of your relationship and is actively trying to negatively impact it. Sad, because she should be glad her daughters have a loving, involved stepmom. Reply: oh, trust me, I dislike it being called that too. But to 10-year-old girls, it's old. Commenter 4. Be really careful here. She is the girl's mom, and you don't want to participate in a dynamic where the kids are placed in the middle of adult feelings and conflicts. Are the girls in therapy? You and your spouse? Is parental alienation a possibility from either side? Figuring out right and wrong aren't the important goals in situations like this. Making sure the kids are getting what they need from both sets of parents is. Update: Aita for doing a group Halloween costume with my stepdaughters that their mother doesn't approve of? Well, Halloween is officially over, and I thought I'd give an update before I forgot. Firstly, I've seen a lot of people wondering if I was the reason my husband and his ex split up, and I'd like to clear the air right now. No, they split up when the girls were 2. I came into the picture a year later. Things came to a bit of a head on one of the girls' visits before Halloween. I pulled their mother aside to talk about Halloween. I told her that I understood she might have mixed feelings about this, but the girls wanted it, and I didn't want to let them down. Besides, it was their father's holiday, and he was in charge of the costume as per their agreement for whoever had them on Halloween. I asked her if there was anything I could do to make this more tolerable for her, as this wasn't doing the girls any favors. She ended up telling me that no, there was nothing I could do, as she didn't approve of it at all, as it wasn't appropriate for me to do a group costume with them, as I'm only their stepmother. Even if I've been in their life for 7 years at this point, she then suggested I only wanted to do this in the first place, because I'm using her daughters as a filler, as I've been unable to have my own children. This got to me. I've had 3 miscarriages over my marriage, one of which the girls know, and by extension their mother, as we thought I was past the danger point when we told them. I told her she was being ridiculous, and I wasn't going to talk about this with her anymore. After the girls left, I broke down crying a little, as having my miscarriages thrown in my face like that hurt, and the implication that I only wanted to be close to the girls because I couldn't have my own children was so wrong. When my husband found out what she'd said to me, ended up calling his ex, asking her where she got off being so cruel. He also made it clear she is not to call me anymore and all contact is to go through him. We got the costumes ready and we were prepared for Halloween. She dropped the girls off and informed us that one of the girls had a cold, and she didn't want them out in the cold as it'd make it worse, and seemed kind of pleased like this would put an end to our plans. When she left, they tried to insist they were okay to go out, even though they were sick. But we weren't about to risk making them more ill. So my husband and I came up with another plan. We all got dressed in our costumes, of course. We ordered pizza and watched movies. All 4 of us greeted any trick-or-treaters so our costumes could be seen. And we also filled a tub with water and had a bobbing for apples competition. It wasn't the night we had planned originally, but all in all it was an enjoyable one, despite the little hitch. That's raising kids, though. Thank you everyone for all your feedback. I hope you all had a wonderful Halloween. Editing to add additional information. A few people have been worried about the fact we bobbed for apples. The girls love bobbing for apples on Halloween. And as we couldn't trick or treat, we took precautions to ensure they could at least do one Halloween thing they enjoyed. We made sure the water wasn't cold with towels on hand to dry off right away, and the one who was sick went last, and the water was poured out after to ensure that the chance of the cold spreading about was limited. Comments. Commenter 1. I'm really sorry for what you've been through with the miscarriages. That's something that no one would ever bring up, especially to intentionally hurt you. You handled this the best way you could, and it speaks volumes about who you are as a person and as a step-parent, that these girls wanted to do a group costume with you. Their mom is feeling jealous. That's her problem. Your husband is right that all communication between yourself and their mother should happen through your husband moving forward. If she calls, you shouldn't answer. If she texts, just forward to him and don't respond. Commenter 2. Glad this had a happy ending for the girls. As for the mom, she needs a reality check. You may not be their mother, but you're someone that stepped up and chose them and their happiness. I have a stepdad that I love dearly, so trust me when I say they'll always appreciate you. Commenter 3. You made lemonade out of the lemons she handed you. Kudos on being the sugar in these girls' lives. Stepmama, I see you. I too deal with an ex who makes similar comments. She lost her mind when we took the boys to Great Wolf Lodge 1 year before Halloween and dressed up as Marvel characters. My response always is that I didn't marry simply a man. I married into a family. Commenter 4. Not appropriate to do a group costume with them as you're only their stepmother. Really betrayed her selfish motivations with they statement. Children do group costumes with their friends all the time. It's even less presumptive than wearing normal matching outfits. Being the bigger person will pay off enormously when the girls are grown and have such a lovely foundation of what a loving, supportive family is. Stories number 3. Ida for not letting my sister-in-law move in after she called me a gold digger. I 29F have been married to my husband 32M for almost 4 years. We both work full-time. He makes a bit more since he's an engineer and I'm a dental hygienist. We live in a 2-bedroom home we bought last year. His sister Emily 27F has never liked me. She's made comments since day one about how I landed on my feet by marrying her brother. I've always ignored it for the sake of family peace. A few weeks ago, Emily got evicted and asked my husband if she could stay with us for a few months. I wasn't comfortable because she's rude, messy, and we've had issues before. At a family dinner last weekend, Emily made another jab about how nice it must be to not worry about rent when I have a husband paying for everything. That was the final straw. I told her I pay half the bills and if she can't respect me, she shouldn't expect help later. My husband asked if I'd reconsider. I said no. I'm not letting someone who disrespects me stay in my home. My mother-in-law is calling me selfish, but my husband understands. I feel a little guilty because she is family and she's struggling, but letting her move in feels like it would be a disaster. Comments. Commenter 1. NTA. She wanted to bite the hand that was literally about to feed and house her. That's a special kind of stupid you don't need in your home. Reply. That's what made it an easy no for me. I just can't deal with that kind of attitude in my own home. Commenter 2. NTA, but I think your husband needs to say no to her also. He needs to shut down the family griping about it so it doesn't make you out to be the bad person. Commenter 3. Since your mother-in-law feels so strongly about helping her precious, spoiled brat of a princess, she can house and feed her adult crotch goblin. Someone who would so openly disrespect you is going to up the score once moved in. Remember people, if you can't say something nice, don't say anything at all. Even my 6-year-old granddaughter knows this. NTA Commenter 4. You can never allow a hostile person, even family, to openly demean you in your own home. Her cheap shots have destroyed any possibility of her staying with you when she needs you most. She sounds very jealous of you. Stories number 4. I got summoned for injuring my neighbor's kid who hurt herself on my property. I was served with a paper to be summoned in small claims court, and I am being sued by my neighbor for $10,000 in damages. Long story short, my neighbor's kids around 6 years old were playing on my front yard without my knowledge or consent, and one of them climbed onto my water fountain. I heard a loud crash and I found out that my fountain was destroyed, and it toppled over on top of the child. I had to call 911 since the kid was bleeding badly. Now, here we are as I just got served with papers to show up at court. My neighbor is making up excuses saying I failed to secure my fountain and that it was a tragic accident waiting for it to happen. They are suing me for damages and medical bills for their child. What should I do to prepare myself? Is there any counter-argument to that, especially since it was private property, and the kid should have never been climbing on my fountain in the first place? Relevant comments. Commenter 1. I think they would have to prove it was an attractive nuisance, which I guess means if your fountain looked like a water slide, you might be in trouble. But otherwise, second homeowner's insurance, nope. I also had a recording of a video that shows the front door of my house. The kid was playing on top of my fountain for 3 minutes with no sight of the adults until it toppled over. Parents were nearby but was not paying attention to the kids. Maybe this video would help me claim that the adults should have enough time and warning to tell their kids to not climb on top of the fountain. Commenter 2, have you had the fountain for a while or is it new? Have the kids climbed on it before? If it's been there for a long time, and they've never climbed on it before, it seems like it would be tough for the parents to prove the attractive nuisance angle. The fountain has been there for a while, at least 5 years. I have secured the top piece of the fountain, and the second level with Gorilla Glue to ensure that wind won't just blow it over. But never would I imagine that a kid would climb on top of it. Plus, the fountain was surrounded by rocks and flowers, and they have to walk over those things before being able to touch the fountain. Update. So long story short, my neighbor sued me for $10,000 in damages. I also countersued and wanted my neighbor to reimburse me for any court paperwork that I had to do. The fountain he broke, and the time I wasted. The judge concluded that I was not responsible for injuring my neighbor's kid, and that the fountain was properly secured to the best of my ability. I also showed him the video of the kid playing on top of the fountain before it fell. Judge told the parents that ultimately it was their responsibility to look after their kid, especially when the video showed over 3 minutes of the kid playing on top of the fountain before the collapse. They knew their kids were playing on the fountain, and they did not tell them to stop. Judge rewarded my request for the damages to my fountain. Now my neighbors are hating on me. Just weeks ago, my house was egged on Halloween, away from the view of the camera, and I was the only house that was egged. Very suspicious that I would be the one house that was egged and know the position of the camera unless I have shown it to them. Like in court. Are there any ways to protect myself? Stories number 5, Aita for considering breaking up with my GF for what her grandparents said. I know this sounds weird, but hear me out. I am posting this on an alt account so nobody I know can find it. I-22M and my GF-22F have been together for almost 2 years now. We met during Freshers Week at university, and found out we were studying the same course. Our relationship has been running smoothly, and we rarely argue. The one problem that we have is to do with her boy best friend, who we'll call Alex. 23M. Alex has been around for longer than I have. He has known my GF for around 4 years now, and they attended high school together. I initially had no problem with Alex, until he started making fun of my appearance and accent. For context, I am not a bad-looking guy. I am 5'10" and have a decent build. I have been working out for just over half a year now, and I have good facial features. Alex has pointed out small things like the shape of my eyebrows, the way my hair gets messy, I have longer hair that can regularly get tangled up, and my accent. I am Slavic, and English is not my first language, for the most part. My girlfriend has defended me and called Alex out on his BS, but sometimes she will laugh at the things he says, particularly when he makes fun of my accent. This bothers me a lot, as I struggled with my English for a few months before passing my IELTS, and struggled to fit in when I moved here. I have brought this up to her and she apologizes but continues to do so. Now, on to the issue. My GF and I recently went to visit her grandparents for the weekend. They are a pretty big part in my GF's life. She was raised by them as well as her parents, and this was my first time meeting them. Her grandmother opened the door and greeted me with a hug and proceeded to say, "Alex, we've heard all about you." I instantly assumed it was a mistake. Her grandmother is old, so maybe it was a memory thing, and I corrected her and told her my name. She frowned and shook her head, sure that it couldn't be correct. The dinner was a bit awkward, as both her grandparents kept referring to me as Alex. My girlfriend kept on correcting them, and they looked confused. After the dinner, I politely asked my girlfriend why they continued to mix me up with Alex. She blew up on me, telling me they're old and struggle with memory loss. I apologized, explaining I didn't mean to insult anybody. I just wanted to know why they continued to refer to me as Alex even after correction. We left it at that, and spent the night watching movies that her grandparents enjoyed. I was setting up the bed in the spare room for me and my GF, when I overheard her grandmother and her talking. My GF was talking in a hushed tone about Alex. Her grandmother kept asking why she hadn't brought Alex along like she said she would. I couldn't hear my GF very well, but she told her grandmother something came up, so she had to bring me instead. I was surprised, as we had this trip planned for a couple of weeks beforehand. I heard her grandmother asking how Alex was doing, and when they'd get to see him again. I am really confused. I asked my girlfriend about it in bed, and she insisted that her grandmother just struggled with memory loss and didn't know what she was saying. I asked if she had planned to bring Alex to her grandparents, and if so, I would have had no problem with it if she'd have simply let me know. She blew up on me again, insisting I didn't understand her relationship with Alex. She called me a few petty names and told me to sleep on the pull-out couch. I reluctantly agreed and laid awake all night thinking about the conversation. Since then, my GF has been more irritable, and nothing I say makes her want to talk to me. She's been calling Alex regularly, and refusing to tell me why she's so upset. This is deeply confusing me, as I didn't come across as insulting in any way. I have considered breaking up with her a couple of times, as this behavior is completely out of the blue, and a refusal to communicate properly is worrying me. Any advice? Would I be the AH if I broke up with her? Edit. Thank you for the replies, and helping me realize that this was never just about what her grandparents have said. My GFS behavior is unacceptable, and I will be having a talk with her tomorrow which will ultimately end in splitting up with her. I will post a short update tomorrow for anyone who is interested. Update 1. Hi, I am writing this in my car, and what just happened completely baffled me. For context, about a day ago I wrote a post explaining that I had went to meet my girlfriend's grandparents, and they kept on calling me Alex, her boy best friend's name. Upon asking my girlfriend about it, she got defensive and has refused to speak to me since. My girlfriend got off of work early and messaged me asking to come pick her up. This is the first time she has messaged me first in days. I agreed, and drove to go pick her up. I waited in the customer section. She works in a bakery, and I noticed some of her co-workers giving me dirty looks. I brushed it off. When she got out, she was quiet. She got in my car with a huff and then asked if I could drive her to Alex's place, as him and some other friends were having a small gathering there. I admit this annoyed me. I told her flat out we needed to talk, and asked her if she wanted to go to my place to do so. She told me anything I had to say. I could say it now, so that's what I did. I told her that her behavior over the past few days had been unacceptable. Her refusal to talk to me, how she blew up at me for just asking simple questions. This is where the conversation got weird. She told me that her grandparents had been waiting to meet Alex, and that's why they got confused. Much different to her loss of memory excuse in my earlier post. I asked her why she didn't just tell me that. She told me I wouldn't understand because I don't understand her relationship with Alex. I told her that yes, I do not understand her relationship with Alex, how she lets him insult me, and how she carries on defending him. She told me that people over here make fun of each other, and I wouldn't understand because my culture is different. What? I told her that regardless of my culture, I wouldn't tolerate the disrespect from her friend. And the lying has led me to believe she is no longer trustworthy. I told her I have given her zero reason to lie to me. She started crying and promising me that nothing was going on between her and Alex. I was stunned, as this isn't what I was implying at all. I asked her why she had said that, and she broke down and admitted that Alex had been pressuring her to leave me for months now. saying she deserved better than someone like me. At this point I was done. I don't need this kind of drama. I told her to get out of my car, and that we are done. She was crying and she begged me not to leave her, promised she'd cut Alex out of her life, promised that their relationship was nothing but friendship. I said I didn't care, and I wanted no part in this anymore. Strangely, I didn't really feel sad ending the relationship. I actually feel pretty numb. Her attitude suddenly shifted. She hit my arm and told me I just didn't understand, and that Alex was right, she should have left me sooner, etc. I just told her to get out of the car. She was still crying, and she slammed the door pretty hard and stormed off. Now she's texting me, apologizing and promising we can work this out. I've had a couple of texts from mutual friends asking what happened, as my GF sent them texts calling me controlling and toxic. Why would she want to get back together with me if she's telling our friends that? I put my phone on Do Not Disturb, and am now writing this update. I don't feel sad right now, but maybe that's because I'm in shock. I wrote this update for the people who gave me the courage to leave this relationship. Thank you for all your advice. Edit. I told our mutual friends the story, and shared the post with them. They said they always found her relationship with Alex weird. LOL, I also shared with them the texts my ex-GF was sending me. They were immediately pissed that she was trying to play them fool. None of my mutual friends have took my ex-GF's side, yet. All of them have apologized to me for the unnecessary drama she was causing, and said they were going to keep their distance. A couple of our friends, we are a big group who did not reach out, have blocked me on socials. Guess the trash took itself out. For now, I am feeling good. I have been hanging out with my cats and ordered takeout food. My roommate gets back from his parents' house tomorrow, so I will update him on the situation when I can, and ask him to be there when my ex-GF collects her stuff. As for my ex-GF, I sent her a text message telling her to only contact me when she was going to collect her things. I muted her texts and calls, and will only check again when she's due to come and get her things. Once that's over, I will block her. I'm feeling pretty good about my decision now. Thank you for all the comments. I will respond to as many as I can. I may have another small update on the weekend, as my ex-GF and I are attending the same house party for Halloween. For now, take care, and thank you to everyone who has commented and/or messaged me. Update 2. So if you've been keeping up with my posts, you will know that I-22M had a GF-22F who had a boy best friend, Alex, 23M, whom she was weirdly close with. I then found out that she had been lying about Alex for months, and that he had been telling her to break up with me. I made her my ex. I said I would post an update on her picking up her things and the party we were both attending. If you haven't, I advise you to read my other 2 posts before this one. I posted an update on the Friday, but it was removed as I think my post was all over the place, and I posted in the wrong sub. Anyway, on to the update. My ex came to collect her stuff Friday morning, and all was mostly well. There were a few tears here and there, but my ex collected her things and my roommate was witness. Anyway, that night there was a Halloween party. I went dressed as Mesmer, irrelevant to the story, but whatever. My friend who was also attending the party dropped me off, and for the first couple of hours I had a splendid time. Then, my ex and Alex showed up at around 8, dressed in matching costumes, Catwoman and Batman. Whatever, it didn't bother me. I continued chatting with friends and drinking. Here's where it all went downhill. Alex approached me and asked to talk in private. I obviously refused. I want nothing to do with him. He kept on insisting, begging me to hear him out. I told him no, and to leave me alone, etc., as I walked away. He told me my ex missed me and wanted to talk. This should have been my first red flag, but I ignored it. I went to talk with one of my female friends and her boyfriend. He got us drinks, and we talked for a while and drank, and had a dance. Then my ex approaches me. She looks tired and teary-eyed. She grabs my arm and begs me to talk to her. I gently move away and tell her no. My friends back me up, telling her to go away. She doesn't go away, keeps on grabbing my arm and begging to talk. Crying now. Unfortunately, my friend started to feel really ill, so her boyfriend took her to the bathroom. As I was now alone with my ex, I tried to move away. She grabbed my hand and tried to lead me away. I shook her off and told her to leave me alone. She started ranting, saying Alex was a manipulative pause, and that she's been meaning to cut him off for ages, bees in my opinion. They showed up in matching costumes. I said, okay, she can do that, but it won't change that we are split up, and I won't consider any contact or relationship in the future. She got visibly annoyed. I decided to leave the party early, as I had a bad feeling about all of this and was uncomfortable. I went to find the host to thank him for the party and say my goodbyes. This is when my ex found me again and cornered me. This is hard to admit, but she put her arms around my neck and tried to kiss me. And then she proceeded to try and touch me. She kept whispering that this wasn't over, and we were still a couple. I froze up for a couple of minutes and then roughly pushed her away and told her to get the F off me, and that she was crazy. I admit I got really angry. I was in shock and felt disgusting. She started crying, calling me unstable. I didn't care at all and stormed out of the party, called a taxi and went home. That night was really difficult. I texted my friend who I had came to the party with to let him know I'd left, and what had happened. He was furious with my ex. Since Friday, I have been in a tough state. A few of you messaged me who I need to get back to, and told me what I experienced was SA. That didn't register at the time, but I guess it's starting to. On Saturday, a lot of my friends messaged me. They had found out what had happened, presumably from my friend I told, and were incredibly supportive. They cut off my ex, and I'm glad to have them on my side. A few of them suggested filing a report, but I don't even know how that works, or if I'm ready to do that. Alex tried to reach out to me through social media, but I blocked his accounts. I don't care for what he or my ex have to say. Thank you for all the kind words you have sent since my last post. And for those who saw my deleted post and sent me advice, I don't think I'll have another update unless I file a report, and/or there are any developments in my situation. I am terrified to see my ex on Monday in class. I will admit, I don't know how to handle this edit. I have never posted on this sub before, so I am not sure if what I have wrote will be flagged, and if it is the correct way to do it. Stories number 6. Found out my wife of 6 years is cheating on me, so I'll become a chemical weapon before delivering divorce papers. Title is kinda self-explanatory. Found out. After going through her phone, she's cheating on me for almost a year already, and with multiple partners. Sucks to be me, but I have most things settled up as I'm already in touch with a couple lawyers as to get my options, as we have a prenup that covers certain assets as well as custody issues, as I also found proof of stuff that may allow me to pursue full custody of our kids. So no worries at the relationship front, as it's a sunken ship already. I'm just keeping quiet to buy time to get the best results at our divorce. The thing I need to get out of my chest is that I'm planning a petty revenge to at least get her punished. Since this opportunity window is so good, I'd say that karma itself is giving me a chance to get her. Our kids got the flu and allergies. They currently can't smell nothing. Also, we just sent the couch to clean and it'll only come back tomorrow. So we will end up having to sleep at the same bed. And that's how I'm planning my revenge. I'm going to abuse that, as for the last 36 hours I changed my whole diet, eating over a dozen eggs, cabbage, bean stew, chili, steamed sweet potatoes and tons of red meat and other stuff. Foods I enjoy, but I do consume in moderation, as all of them gets me with gas issues, as they make me fart a lot. And those carry sometimes a stench that even I find mildly unbearable. My future ex, however, is quite sensitive to the smell, even puking once after a BBQ let me with bad gas. She's currently working right now, so she has no idea on what awaits her as I'm eating without telling her, and I can already feel my stomach twitching. So looks like it'll be a very toxic night for a very toxic partner. Now if you excuse me, I'll have a burrito as well, since I plan on binge eating as much as to get the worst possible karma smell for her. Comments. Commenter 1, I have no words. Go forth. Bearer of the flatulence, wielder of the fart bomb, king in the gaslands. Commenter 2, I have never wanted an update about farts as much as I do now. Stories number 7. Aita for refusing to reconcile with my sister and her husband after they called me crazy during a medical and legal nightmare that nearly killed my partner and I. This year was the most brutal year of me and my partner's life. My partner and I discovered our rental was full of hidden black mold. She developed severe asthma from it, something she'd never had before, and passed out multiple times. We had to call ambulances. She passed out multiple times, and I even ended up in hospital myself from breathing issues and hypoxia. We managed to win $10,000 in tribunal against agents and landlord. At the same time, I was dealing with lawyers, inspectors, caretaking my partner, landlords who were covering it up while still working full-time. It was chaos. Pure survival mode. I still haven't fully processed it. I was a pure caveman for 3 to 4 months in full fight mode. Now that we're both getting better, the whole saga feels unreal, and like it never happened. I'm getting sleep paralysis every night, can't sleep, etc. Pretty sure I have PTSD symptoms, but besides the point. Instead of supporting me, my sister and her husband decided I'd lost it. They called me crazy and said I was making my girlfriend crazy too. They completely ignored the medical reports and photos. I got my own inspections done too. because the LL paid his own inspectors to say there was no issue. My inspectors found all the black mold in the walls and ceiling. When I tried to explain how bad it really was, my sister dismissed it as overreacting, gaslit me, and then kicked me out of the family group chat. Her husband has a history of saying tone-deaf stuff, like sexual jokes at his own wedding and weird comments in general. He said to me at their wedding, "I'm gonna make you an uncle tonight." Bro, when I called that out, my sister brushed it off with, "He's just joking and drunk, don't take it so seriously." That's kind of her whole thing. Dismissive, excuse-filled, never accountable, never been very close with her. Now she's blaming her behavior on baby stress and sleep deprivation. During the worst months, when my partner was collapsing and I was barely functioning, not one of them checked in. No visits, no messages, nothing. Just judgment and gossip. That was the moment I snapped. I blocked them both and went no contact. Said what I really thought of them. And they twisted my words, claiming I threatened my brother-in-law. It's been about 6 months. My partner and I have finally moved out, detoxed, and started feeling like ourselves again. Now my mom and grandma, who just flew in from overseas, keep pushing the, "You need to fix this" angle. They say things like, "If you love us, you'll do it. His family doesn't like you. You're missing out on seeing your niece grow up." When I told them I wasn't the one who did anything wrong, my mom cried and said I've changed. But honestly, I don't feel like I've changed. I just stopped accepting emotional manipulation. I love my niece, but I'm not going to be guilted into forgiving people who abandoned and ridiculed me while my partner and I were fighting to breathe. I'm in my late 20s. My parents didn't believe me either at the time because of my sister's gossip. I'm the youngest too, so it's always been like that. The first real time I said no to all of them, and this is how I'm getting treated. So Reddit, Aita for refusing to make peace with my sister and her husband when I was the one disrespected, gaslit, and left alone during a medical crisis. Commenter 1 NTA, if they had actually changed, they would be the ones apologizing and trying to fix things. Your mother asking you to be the bigger person is all you need to know. Commenter 2. Well, the real AH is the landlord who let black mold grow inside their apartment because they're too cheap to pay for it to get clean. Reply, don't get me started. He tried to evict my partner. I wasn't in the lease after we discovered it. Ended up costing him $60K to fight us in tribunal. Lesson learned, I hope. Commenter 2 reply. If he had used some of that money to clean his apartment instead of fighting you guys, this never would have happened. Reply, they just don't ever think someone will do something about it. Commenter 2 reply. How much did you win when it was deducted from all the costs you have to pay to fight him in a lawsuit? Reply, I lost about 20 dreams fighting it, but my goal was to ruin the LL financially for everything we went through, and I got what I wanted. He looked like he saw 10 ghosts during the hearing. Commenter 3, stay no contact. I'd also let mom and grandma know that since they feel you're the problem, they can join your sister in the low no contact list. Build your own family that actually gives a shit about you. Because clearly your own family is lacking in that arena. Reply, my grandma was more filled in, used to guilt trip me. My grandpa passed recently, which is why my mom flew her here. And my mom, being the manipulator she is, instantly saw the opportunity, instead of just letting her mom grieve. Commenter 4 NTA. Your mother is pestering you because you are the soft target. This will go on forever unless you stop being the soft target. She doesn't pester your sister because she is reactive, dismissive, and obstinate. Your best option is to become all those things. On this issue, blow up at your mother literally every time she brings it up. Blast her for not caring about the health of her own child. Ask her how she can sleep at nights, having failed you so badly. State that your sister has wronged you and is dead to you, at least until she apologizes, and just make the conversation difficult, unpleasant, and then get up and leave or kick her out. It sounds borderline abusive, and it kinda is. But your mother has been trained by your sister, and you need to deprogram that shit. It should matter to her who is in the wrong. The fact she doesn't care and is going after the softer target is a good explanation as to why your sister is who she is. Reply, yeah, I'd say I'm the family scapegoat, but now I've told them all my boundaries around the issue. I just am calm and direct. I've never been explosive like my sister because I've got EQ because of putting up with their shit my whole life. And well, it doesn't work with toxic people. Gotta become an ape for apes to listen. Stories number 8. My 38 FX fiancé ghosted me 39M before our wedding. It's been 16 years, and now she wants to talk it over again. Should we reopen closed wounds? I was never given an explanation. She just left and told nobody. It was literally right before our big wedding ceremony. She didn't leave a note, nothing, just left. Even her family were left baffled. She just up and left. We had dated all through HS and all through college. She eventually returned, but not to me. I had to learn via third party, her parents, she had no intentions of coming home. She wanted nothing to do with me and told her parents to avoid having me around. I never got a choice in the matter. I respected her wishes. I never understood why she did it. My only guess was she had a mental breakdown because she cut off all contact with everyone. We were both young and still growing. I don't know, but I've struggled with it since. Out of the blue, she DMs me on Facebook after all these years and wants to meet up. I'm an influx of emotions right now. Angry, nervous, hopeful, sad. I still have feelings for her. I don't know if I could take her back, but looking at her Facebook makes me miss her. She's even better looking than she was before and single. I'm conflicted. She won't talk about anything as to why she left. She said it's best to do so in person. The only thing I can tell is from her Facebook is a bunch of stuff about her being weak and living a life full of shame and regret, and being lonely. This is dumb. She ghosted me, and I should want nothing to do with her, but damn it, I still have feelings for her. I never stopped thinking about her. What should I do? Ghost her in return? Call her out? See where this date takes us? TLDR ex-fiancé DM'd me on Facebook wanting to meet up for a date. I haven't spoken to her in 15+ years. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. First off, damn OP, that's rough. 16 years is a long time. Would meeting up with her set you back in the time you've spent getting over this? Or will it give you the closure you never found? OP. I don't know. I just want closure. For the longest time I thought she had cheated on me, but the only things I've been told from her family and the few friends she didn't cut off, it more like a mental breakdown. I know she was scared to death about the wedding, and her looming finals and her career. She was beyond stressed. She ghosted everyone. She gradually came back, but I was never involved. I have never stopped thinking of her. Update. Well, that was something. I got closure at least. We met at a cafe and sat and talked outside. The first thing I noticed was how badly scarred her arms were, and how much pain was in her face. Long story short, she wanted to break up long before the wedding. She was too weak and cowardly to speak up for herself. She had a complete nervous breakdown over everything. She had been tired of being forced into doing things she never wanted to do and never having the guts to stand up for herself. She was mad at her family pressuring her to get married and pump out kids. She was mad at them forcing her into a degree that she didn't want. She was mad herself for not being able to speak up. Nothing she did was justified, which we agreed on. When I first proposed to her, I did it in a public area. I had put her on the spot and she wanted to say no, but she couldn't bear to see me hurt. She was right. I made all the choices for her. I was a very different person back then, and she was very meek, as in she just went with the flow and had no backbone. I drowned her voice out often, and often never gave her the chance to grow to be a person. Back then, I was often focused only on myself. Well, everything came to a climax, and she had a complete mental breakdown. She ran away from her problems at the behest of her best friend and only person in the world she ever trusted. As she said, it's the only thing she knows how to do. Run. She never had the spine to speak up. Her life just spiraled downwards. She did a few years homeless after her best friend's husband kicked her to the curb. The rest of that time was spent in prison, which she didn't specify what she did. She was released about a year ago and has been turning her life around. She has a job. She's reconnected with her parents, and she's finally reconnecting with me. She never stopped trying to get in touch with me. As for our future, we have none. We both agreed to end things and go our separate ways. We both are changed. Two different people. We have nothing in common and don't live near each other. She doesn't justify what she did, nor does she want to be forgiven. She thinks it's repulsive and is ashamed of her actions. I wanted to be angry, but I couldn't. I just forgave her. With that, we shook hands, said our goodbyes. And that will likely be the last time we ever see one another. It's bittersweet. I got the closure I wanted. We both did. It feels like a burden was released. I know now we never had a future together, and never will. But on the other, I'm sad because it's over. All these years, maybe hoping something would happen, were for naught. But in the end, this is an ending, and I finally have closure. Not many get to say that. Do I believe her story? Yes, I do, and even if she's full of shit at this point, does it even matter? I've always known her to be very weak-willed, meek. She often just does what everyone tells her to do, and often runs when things get too difficult. She avoids her problems because was too weak to stand up to them. I mean, it makes sense why her family would not talk to me about her. They were the typical tiger parents that disowned their problem child. TL, Doctor, all's well, that ends well. Our relation has finally come to an end and we can move on. Final comments, one commenter putting a lot of blame on the friend. Reply, her friend was an enabler, we all were. Her friend was the one who encouraged her to run. Of course nobody forced her to, it was all her. If I hadn't ignored her problems, if I actually had been a part of her life, I might have seen. It is what is, though. OOP, when asked how the Met during the pandemic and the public proposal, reply, it's semi-open, we ordered takeout. We sat in the parking lot, not ideal but so be it. And the public proposal reply, the proposal shouldn't be the surprise when it happens should. You should know 100% before you do it. As in disgust, it is what both of you want at some point. Dropping it at random does put a huge amount of pressure on the other person if they're not quite there. Truth is, she was right. I dropped the proposal on her on purpose in public to ensure she wouldn't say no. I was only thinking about myself. It never occurred to me she was unhappy. It never occurred to me she was very uncomfortable with a public proposal. OOP, when told his ex was bullied by a lot of people, leading to the jilting reply. I abused her. There, I said it. I neglected her needs in favor of mine and forced into a marriage. I'm no better than her mom and dad, really. It pisses me off all these fucking years I never realized how fucking rotten I was. OOP answers once again on meeting during the pandemic reply. Because people don't fucking read. Not every goddamn place in America is closed. They remain open but are limiting to takeout only. My state, and by extension my town, are not under lockdown. We've not had any cases here. This isn't rocket science. Stories number 9. Aita for calling my husband a disgrace after he said my miscarriage ruined his birthday. I miscarried yesterday afternoon about 12 p.m. I've never had a miscarriage before, and this baby was so wished for, so it's all so fresh, and I'm sobbing right now, so I apologize in advance if it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. My husband turned 27 yesterday. I 26F was pregnant with mine, and my husband's 27M's second child. Yesterday, I was 8 weeks pregnant. The day before yesterday we saw a beautiful heartbeat flicking on the screen, and today I'm devastated. I was playing with our 2-year-old when I felt a pressure in my lower abdomen. Not long later, I noticed bleeding, and I let my husband know immediately that I had discomfort and bleeding. Before long, I had passed what I believe is the fetus, and I messaged him. I think I lost the baby. I wanted to keep him updated, and I guess I was seeking some kind of emotional support. I asked if he could come home, and he said, of course, if it's urgent. I said I think it is because the pain and bleeding is getting worse, and I'm starting to feel lightheaded, and our 2-year-old is unattended in his playroom right now. We have no friends or family near that I could call who would get to us quicker than he could. I had to clean myself up, crawl downstairs to take paracetamol, make my son his lunch, and then put him down for a nap. At this point my husband still isn't home. He was working approx 30 mins away and took closer to 60 mins to get back. Hours later when I asked, it was because he'd stopped at Tesco to pick up some beers. I ended up very poorly, losing lots of blood, lightheaded, vomiting, etc., and he had to take me to A&E. By the time I was discharged, it was almost 8 p.m. last week. I had said I'd make him his favorite dinner for his birthday, which he reminded me when we were almost home. I said I wasn't feeling up to it, and that whatever takeaway he wants is on me. He said, for fuck's sake, under his breath, and then muttered something along the lines of, this bullshit has ruined my birthday. He didn't stop to get any takeaway. He just drove straight home. He put our son to bed, and I went to bed, and I'm not sure what he did after. I didn't see him this morning as he had already left for work. He's not messaged me all day, and he got home a few hours ago. It's now 8:40 p.m., and he's been giving me silent treatment. I tried to speak to him about an hour or so ago, and he ignored me, and I called him a disgrace. He slammed the bedroom door and locked me out of the bedroom. His mum has since messaged me and said I need to be patient as he's also had a loss. She didn't ask how I was or anything. He's obviously speaking to his mum, but why isn't he opening up and speaking to me? She said I was harsh? I'm feeling utterly emotionally neglected right now. My body has been through emotional and physical hell. I understand that my miscarriage came at a fucking inconvenient time for him as it was his birthday and all. I'm not sure if it's the hormones making me feel crazy, but is it nuts to contemplate divorce? Aita for calling him a disgrace? Replies from Oop off topic. I am on AL and return to work on Monday. I have already told a handful of my close co-workers that I am pregnant. I have no idea to navigate this. What is the best way to tell people that I am no longer pregnant? Do I just say? Do I wait for them to ask? I feel so stupid for telling people so soon, so I've put myself in this position. What's the least awkward way to address it, so that there are absolutely no follow-up questions? I don't want to discuss it any more than I have to because I just keep breaking down. Thanks XRU in the UK. I'm in England. My doctor's surgery is closed until Tuesday because of the bank holiday weekend. Do you know if OGPs are able to sign me off work? My work involves closely monitoring new members of staff, assessing them and signing them off to work independently. I need to be able to focus completely, as there is no room for error, and be smiley and friendly. I don't think I'm able to do this right now, but I'm not sure how to get signed off as I'm back in work on Monday. I'm not sure if that makes sense. I didn't mention anything about hearing a heartbeat. They don't listen to heartbeat through ultrasound here in England. They use Dopplers later on in the pregnancy. We saw the heartbeat flickering on the ultrasound after the technician smiled and pointed it out to us. By the sounds of things, you're lucky enough to have never been referred to EPAC for an early scan. I had a scan at 6 weeks and a scan at 8 weeks. You're kind of correct that the NHS do the first scan at 12 weeks, the dating scan. But unfortunately, not everyone has fucking straightforward pregnancies. Don't pull apart my story and try to invalidate my fucking miscarriage. I apologize for being short, but I had no sleep last night, and I'm in so much pain, then picked up my phone to see a comment that my story is probably fake because some sheltered person has had the pleasure of not attending EPAC. I'm not sure how to do an update or if anyone will see this. I have left my husband. Me and my son are staying with family and are safe. I have another scan tomorrow morning to make sure I have passed everything successfully. Thank you to everyone who had reached out and offered advice. It's been really helpful. I started antibiotics for my tonsillitis on Saturday, and I'm already feeling much better. Thank you. It was hard as he was very upset and angry when I tried to leave, and he tried to stop me leaving with our son. My mum was there and intervened, but I've never seen him so angry. I'm not sure what has come over him these past few days, but he's a whole new person, and it's terrifying. I also have tonsillitis at the moment, so I'm feeling really rough. How will I know if a fever is from that or the miscarriage? I currently have a low-grade fever at 37.9 degree, but I'm not sure what it's due to. The bleeding is no longer heavy. I spoke with my doctor yesterday, and because of the bank holiday weekend, I can't have a scan until Tuesday to confirm everything has been passed. I spoke to a pharmacist today who said, try home remedies because he doesn't think it's severe enough for antibiotics at this point, as he could only see 3 white spots on my tonsils. The heart is formed at around 5 weeks. It starts to become visible on a vaginal ultrasound between 6 to 7 weeks. I was 8 weeks, and the ultrasound technician showed us a flicking white ball inside the clear fetus shape on the screen. We saw a heart beating. Cardiac activity was noted on my ultrasound report. Update: Aita for calling my husband a disgrace after he said my miscarriage ruined his birthday. A kind Reddit user informed me that this is the best way to do an update, rather than adding a comment to my previous post, so hopefully this reaches the right people. I should have clarified in my original post from last week that the way my husband responded was completely out of character for him. He's usually a caring and supportive man, and is a good husband and father. The only incident where he's shown any kind of red flags was when I put together an accent chair. I used a screwdriver to attach the legs to the seat, and when he came home from work and saw that I'd done it myself, he jumped on it until it broke to show that I didn't do it properly, and that I should have waited for him to come home. He'd been under lots of stress at work, so I asked him to go to therapy, which he did, instead of pulling the divorce card straight away. We have been together for 7 years in May, and is the only partner I've ever known. My family all love him and have accepted him from day one. I also should have clarified, yes, I know he was an AH in the scenario. I wasn't questioning that. What I was questioning was whether I took it a step too far in calling him a disgrace. He's going through a lot at work at the moment. It was his birthday. I'd been messaging him and telling him that I'd miscarried his child and he had to leave work early, and then I called him a disgrace after he'd taken me to the hospital and was responding to the grief in his own way. I think the majority of people said I was NTA in this scenario, and due to his behavior that my insult was justified. Thank you to everyone who reached out, checked in, offered condolences and emotional support. I've read all my messages and tried to read most of the comments. Most of them have been very kind and useful and have helped a lot over the past few days. I had a scan yesterday which confirmed that everything has passed successfully. Some people may remember that I was very worried about retained tissue due to my fever over the weekend. Also, my tonsillitis has fully cleared up, so I'm feeling almost back to normal. Physically, I left my husband. Me and my son are staying with family in a different part of the country, so we are safe and are managing. My husband did get very angry when I told him that I was leaving him. He tried to stop me from leaving with our son, put hands on me and threatened to end his life. My mum intervened and like I said, we are safe. I have some time off work now, so I will continue to take time to recover emotionally and plan my next steps. Thank you if you've read this far. I doubt there will be any more updates after this. Replies from Oop. He's not here to defend himself, so I'm trying to make it as fair as possible from both sides so he's not made out to be a monster. I have a therapy session booked. I will not be returning to him, as he's not someone that I want my son to grow up watching and witness that behavior thinking it's normal. I was thinking that maybe he was having some kind of mental breakdown and our miscarriage was the final straw. He said that when he stopped at Tesco to get some beers, it was for the both of us till we could drink our sorrows away. I was planning on getting him some help because he clearly needs it. He only acts insane when he's under immense pressure at work, genuinely. When he broke my chair, it was around the time of immense stress at work, but when he put his hands on me, he actually put his hands around my neck and was choking me, which is what is terrifying. I can't look at him the same, so I can't be the one to get him the help. I'm looking into full custody and solicitors so that I never have to see him again. Update TW? Aita for calling my husband a disgrace after he said my miscarriage ruined his birthday? Hi. I'm not sure if anyone remembers, but I posted on this app for the first time a while back after I had a miscarriage, and my husband said I ruined his birthday. I need to start this off by asking that if anyone takes the time to comment, please do not leave negativity or insults as I'm extremely emotionally vulnerable and I truly feel terrible. When I updated about 5 weeks ago, I didn't think I'd have to make another update, but in short, I'd left my husband and he'd forcibly tried to keep me in the house by putting his hands around my neck. It was really frightening, and in that moment made me feel completely confident in my decision to leave. Since that day, I haven't had any contact with my husband. As I was leaving, he was screaming that he'd kill himself if I left. It's not the first time he's threatened this in our relationship, but I called his mum once I was in the car to let her know. She said she'd go over to see him, and I didn't hear from her for another week or so. About 2 weeks ago, my husband was found dead in our family home. I'm angry, hurt, devastated, relieved, and most of all guilty. I feel so guilty that he's dead. If I hadn't have left, I'm certain he'd still be alive. But I can't be certain that I would be, or that our son would be. I don't know how much sense I'm making. I just know that there were some people worried for mine and my son's safety. Please be kind. Please reach out to loved ones or local services if you're struggling. Final update, 6.5 months later from last post. Final update, Aita, for calling my husband a disgrace for saying my miscarriage ruined his birthday. Randomly logged into this account today and saw countless messages checking in, so I thought I'd do a blanket response, so, we're okay. First of all, thank you. I was a shell of the person I am today 6 months ago when I first posted here to vent, get advice. I knew this app existed, but I had no idea that there are so many lovely people here, so ready to help and share similar experiences. It was exactly what I needed when I needed it, and I'm forever grateful. It was just over 6 months ago that I miscarried. My husband treated me like shit on the bottom of his shoe, and I left him, despite him choking me in an attempt to scare me into staying. I'm now doing really well. I'm being medicated for anxiety. I've had almost 6 months of regular therapy, which has been so beneficial. And so much more abuse has come to light. My 3-year-old son has done really well. I do suspect autism, so I've started to get that ball rolling. If anyone is familiar with right to choose process in England with children's ASD referrals, please message as it's so confusing. He's been struggling with that in preschool, but otherwise doing really well, and I'm so proud of him. I'm about to complete on buying a house near my family. I've been staying here with my mum since everything happened anyway. But at least we'll have our own space again. And near my support network, I'll never ever ever let a partner isolate me like that again. I have gone no contact with my MIL and 2 sales, which stung a bit. But my life is much more peaceful. That's about all I can think of that's happened since I last logged on here. I can't imagine I'll have any further updates. Thanks again so much to everyone who offered advice, guidance, and their own experiences. It probably saved my life and my son's life. Replies from Oop. This is exactly what I said to the GP. Signs of trauma in young children can mimic some of the typical signs of autism, but because of what his nursery had documented and the presence of autism in my family, she thinks it's best to get it assessed. But she noted it in the referral, so I hope it will be taken into account during the assessment. And I wouldn't have known this without people on here telling me. Multiple people were quoting statistics of the likelihood that he'd kill me once he choked me. I'm also looking into becoming an ambassador of a local domestic abuse organization to help others the way people here helped me. So he's not under a pediatrician, just the GP. He's on the waiting list to be seen by a speech and language therapist. I'm not sure what it's like in your area, but where we are, the preschool will contact the area Senko about what they've noticed and request an ASD assessment through our local authority. Waiting list is approximately 2 years long, and I want him to be assessed and diagnosed before he starts school, so he already has support in place. My ADHD wasn't diagnosed until I was an adult, and I struggled massively in school, and I don't want that for my baby. So the GP offered right to choose, and they gave me a list of providers that I can choose, and they'll send a referral there. Apparently it's quicker. I'm not sure on the ins and outs, as I'd just finished working a night shift when the doctor called me to discuss it all, so I was half asleep, unfortunately. So the service we went with is called Evolve. The GP should have hopefully sent off the referral now, as I sent the letter to them last Thursday. I'm not sure what the process is now, just waiting for the service to get back to me. Will the GP get back to me to confirm or ask more details? The GP was also going on about him having ADHD, but there's no point in even thinking about that at this age because he's just so young. I'm really hoping this whole process doesn't take too long. I'm not sure about your area, but without RTC, the waiting list is like 2 years long. Thank you for all this info, it's really helpful. My husband ended his life shortly after we left. I won't go into any more details other than my therapist suggested that it was the final act of abuse to punish me. Thank you, Yes, he had his 2.5-year assessment, and I said my concerns then, but they didn't do anything. He's not due another one, but I've booked a holistic needs assessment with the health visiting team in a few weeks. The GP has been helpful and should have sent of the RTC, but I'm not quite sure what the next steps are now, though. Stories number 10. Petite women. Please don't marry a big tall man if you're going to be surprised your daughter is tall and big too. My mother is this type of woman. She seems to loving making comments about how tall I am even though I'm only 5'6". She keeps offering me her clothes, knowing they won't fit me properly, but insisting I try them on first. She also jokes that I look like the mom, and she looks like the daughter in public. It's even a problem with my extended family on her side, unfortunately, since they are all shorter than me too. My maternal grandpa is 5'5". My mom will make a big show of trying to fit me in the photo during family events. I love her to bits, and otherwise she's a great mom. But as I don't need to be reminded so often that I'm not fun size like she is, like, ma'am, your 5'2" ass decided to marry a 6'-ift 200+ lb man, and you're surprised I'm 5'6", which isn't even tall. Commenter 1, I can relate in a similar way. My mom was extremely pretty when she was young and still is. She was a beauty queen, etc. She got pregnant by a man with a really strong, masculine chin and jawline. I was born looking just like him. She basically rejected me BC. I didn't look like her. And I wasn't a cute baby or pretty little girl. My brother, who has a different father, looks exactly like my mom, and she strongly preferred him when we were kids. My advice to all women who want to have bio kids is beware that your possible daughter may inherit a handsome jawline from a traditionally handsome man, and she won't be treated well by society for it. Commenter 2. Somewhat similarly, I had a 6'0" mom for whom it was very important to marry a taller man, which she found in my 6'4" dad. And then she was dismayed to have a daughter even taller than her. I grew up with her frequently praying that I wouldn't exceed 5'11", and shoe size 11, which I realized was coming from her own insecurity and experience with the social difficulties of being a tall woman, but it wasn't great for my confidence when I far overshot both those marks. Of course, my parents were simultaneously hoping my brother would end up super tall because he was good at basketball, and in the end, we ended up about the same height. You can't actually control which mixture of genes your children end up with, and even after all of that, she's still not thrilled that my sisters who, unlike me, both ended up a much more desirable 5'10", have chosen men around their own height, rather than very tall men. I've pointed out that at least they're less likely to end up with overly tall daughters that way. Commenter 3, yeah. Some of this stuff isn't actually that funny. She's undermining your appearance because of her own insecurities, and playing it off as jokes. Make sure you've got your eyes open to this and don't internalize any negatives about your size. Commenter 4. It makes me so cross. My mum's friend is like this. She's 5'2", tiny slim, but had a baby with a 6'4" brick shithouse of a man. And now her adult daughter is 5'8", and a well-built, healthy woman. Her mum is always telling her to lose weight, but it's literally her frame. Her tummy is flat and she is no jiggle. Lady, you had a baby with a bear. Don't be surprised. Stories number 11. I-38F caught my husband, sign M, doing something deeply inappropriate beside our sleeping child. I have been extremely upset. I-38F need perspective on something that happened yesterday that completely shocked me. My husband M and I sleep in separate rooms, and our almost 5-year-old daughter alternates between us at night. Yesterday morning around 8:40 a.m., I went into his room to wake her up. I froze when I realized he was masturbating while watching porn on his phone. He was covered in the blanket till his neck so nothing was exposed. With our daughter sleeping right beside him, only a few inches away, he immediately looked startled and tried to hide the phone. When I demanded to see it, I found multiple porn tabs open in incognito mode. It was adult content, not involving minors. But that doesn't make it any less disturbing to me. What horrified me most was that he did this while she was right next to him, fully aware of her presence while she slept. When I confronted him about what if she woke up and saw, he said he was alert for any movement from her, which only made me feel worse. It meant he knew exactly what he was doing, and tried to justify it as if being alert somehow made it okay. Later, he said he felt ashamed, that he's a bad person and doesn't deserve us. I told him I can't ignore what happened, and that I no longer feel safe leaving our daughter alone with him. He got defensive, said I was reinforcing his thoughts of shame, and walked away. To be clear, I have never worried about my daughter's physical safety with him before this. The only issue I've ever had is his emotional regulation. He can get worked up and angry quickly, though not violent. That's why this has left me completely confused. Was this an awful moment of impulse and poor judgment, or something that points to a deeper problem? One question that keeps haunting me is whether men can tune out a child's presence during sexual activity. Not because I want to excuse it, but because I need to know if this means my daughter was never at risk, or if the boundary violation itself is already a huge red flag. I can't stop replaying that moment in my mind. It leaves me feeling sick, heartbroken, and terrified all at once. I keep wondering whether this was an isolated, awful lapse in judgment or a sign of something deeper that I need to protect my daughter from. The thought of what could have happened if she had woken up makes my stomach turn. I don't know if this is something that can ever be repaired through therapy and strict boundaries, or if it's a line that's simply too serious to come back from. Right now, I'm trying to focus on keeping my child safe while making sense of what this means for our future. If anyone has been through anything remotely similar or has insights, I would appreciate to hear it update. Since quite a few people asked, our daughter usually co-sleeps between us, but about a month ago, I moved to another bedroom due to some health issues that required more restful sleep. Since then, she's been alternating between sleeping with me and her dad depending on how I'm feeling. When I walked in on him, he was under the blanket with headphones on, watching porn. The way he got startled and quickly tried adjusting his position made it obvious what was happening. Even before I saw the phone, our marriage has been rocky for a while. There's been no physical intimacy for about a year and a growing emotional disconnect. Comments. Commenter 1. A parent did this when they thought I were asleep for a lot of my childhood because we lived in one room. It absolutely affects me deeply to this day. I often think, why couldn't they just wait till I was gone? Or, why didn't they go to the bathroom? And that's partially why we're no contact, basically. Because to me some stuff can be forgiven, like not having money for things or mistakes with types of discipline. But it is not a mistake to choose to do that in front of your kid. It makes me feel so disgusting, and I don't forgive it to this day. I've told so few people that because of the shame I have from having to see and hear those types of things so many times. You're not overreacting. I so wish anyone knew and stopped my parent. Commenter 2. When I confronted him, he said he was alert for any movement from her. So, he's done this so often before that he feels confident she won't wake. This means you can assume that your husband has a habit of masturbating in bed with your very young child. Even if he truly, 100% believed that your daughter wouldn't wake up, this is still bad, terrible judgment, and no understanding of consequences at the very least. Either your husband is extremely stupid, or he's a pervert. Either way, it seems your daughter isn't safe to be left alone with him. Commenter 3. Oh my, his reaction tells everything. That he tried the pity road first with, boo-hoo, I don't deserve you. trying to get you to disagree and build him up again, and then suddenly being all defensive after it didn't work. Try again, having a real grown talk about this with him a few days later. When things may be settled a bit, if he reacts similar, you should really rethink your marriage. I'm sorry. Also, this surely wasn't the first time, commenter 4. Nor he was really alert, wasn't he? He was so alert that he was still going to town when you walked in. This is truly disgusting and absolutely disturbing. First, do not ever allow your daughter to sleep with that pervert again. In my opinion, it doesn't matter that the porn he was watching involved adults. He couldn't wait until your daughter got up and started her day to do that, or until that night when she was sleeping with you. I won't tell you to stay or leave, but if it were me, hubby would definitely be staying somewhere else until he figures out why he needed to watch porn and masturbate while lying in bed with his 4-year-old child. Stories number 12. My husband said he cheated on me because our child has autism and he couldn't deal with it. Update: he told me that I cannot divorce him, that he cannot accept that, he needs me with him, and if I leave him too, he will unalive himself. Update 2. He told me to just give the child to my mother to raise and we can start over. I wanted to slap him. I started crying. My husband is a very accomplished man in his career. He became the managing director of a really big international company, so he represents it locally. We got married in 2016 but had our first child in 2020. I was already 40 and he was 41. I supported him in his career. I tolerated his narcissistic tendencies. Control freak traits. These usually manifested at work with his subordinates. But at home too, he always wanted to know everything. He became very stressed, as this function is the highest management category, and he often lost his shit, raised his voice at people, exploded at every minor inconvenience, called everyone lazy, stuffed, incompetent. I tried to keep the whole household by myself even though I was also working full-time. He had little free time, but when he had it, I allowed him to relax. He often went for a run, swimming or at the gym, so basically to keep himself in shape and fit. But it was getting more and more difficult. He is a tall man, 6'2", and I asked him to help me get something from the shelf, and he shouted at me that I cannot do anything by myself. No one can do anything by themselves. Everyone needs him for everything, and he cannot babysit us all. We have a 5-year-old son, and he has been diagnosed with autism. Not a very severe form, but it's obvious from our side. He was throwing a tantrum in the grocery store, scratching himself and biting himself. People were watching. My husband dragged him to the car and put him inside. I was watching him from the store and I could see that he covered his face with palm. I believe he was crying. He treats everyone at work like dirt, making people leave. His demands are not realistic. And recently someone filed a HR report to the headquarters that a new hire, a 30-year-old woman, was giving him a BJ in his office. There were screenshots of texts between her and a friend in which she was telling her friend how my husband loves to see her knees getting red and her not dropping a single drop on the carpet. How I am not a real woman. I don't have big breasts like her. How I am a prude. He denied it, of course, but in those texts were things me and him discussed at home, including how she satisfy him better than his wife, who every night needs to read the same story 5 times. The story was named too. My son has fixations, and he wants me to tell him the same story 5 times every night. Finally, he admitted it to me and told me he cannot deal with the fact his son has autism, and he is ashamed, and he feels like a failure, and just needed to relax. Commenter 1. Although I read your post, all I need is the title to say bullshit. He cheated because he wanted to cheat. He cheated because he's a narcissistic asshat. All the rest is fluff, smoke, and mirrors. Edit. Narcissists threaten to unalive as a method of control. They won't follow through. It's emotional manipulation. That he wants to give away his kid says it all. He is ashamed of him since he's not perfect. It ruins his image of perfection. Commenter 2. He treats everyone at work like dirt, making people leave. His demands are not realistic. And recently someone filed a HR report to the headquarters that a new hire, a 30-year-old woman, was giving him a BJ in his office. Finally, he admitted it to me and told me he cannot deal with the fact his son has autism, and he is ashamed, and he feels like a failure, and just needed to relax. IMO, get a really good attorney, and be prepared for him to lose his job. The likelihood the company will terminate him, if they've not yet done so, is incredibly high. You'll want to make certain to protect your share of the assets, and make sure your child is financially taken care of. He may not find a role at the same income, at least not for a long time. Commenter 3. He cheated because he wanted to. If your son didn't have autism, he would have chosen something else to justify it. Reply, and that woman too. She was talking trash about me in those texts. How I cannot satisfy a man, how I got fat I am not, how I don't have boobs, commoner 4. He cheated for redemption and to stroke his ego with your child's disability. He probably feels some sort of failure because he's so successful with everything else. This is something that he can't control, and it reflects poorly on him. But he can't see outside of himself to know that it's not about him. It's about your son and his needs. And his needs are different due to autism. I'm sorry that you have to go through this. Especially when he's not gentle with your son. It sounds like your husband has a long pattern of anger and treating people poorly. If he refuses anger management and/or therapy, you need to decide if this is what you want you and your son to live with for the rest of your lives. Things will not change unless your husband wants to get help and gets it. Stories. Number 13. I have been sleeping with former BIL after I was accused of cheating with him. Throwaway. I was married in papers still to the love of my life for 12 years. We met when he was 38 and I was 29. I found him to be the most beautiful and kindest soul I have ever met, and it was literally love at first sight. I have always been a sucker for kind people. When I met his family, his sister and mother, I was shocked at how little they thought of him. Made fun of him and actually bullied him. I literally never understood why they didn't see what I saw in him. T broke my heart, but he loved his family so much. He makes very good money, so when he introduced me as his GF, his family hated me immediately. And his sister literally said that she never thought he would find anyone, so his money would go to her sons. At the time we met, I was a student, so they called me a gold digger because they could never understand someone would love him for him. He never spent a penny on me or my education, but we moved in together when I felt confident that I could contribute too. Now I make as much as him. The sister was married to her husband since they were teenagers, and they have 3 boys together, which she is very proud of for some reason. Like she has a better vagina or something, but even since I met them they have been fighting. It culminated in him leaving her last Christmas. She was devastated because of it. One day my husband called me to tell me that he was meeting up with her after work, so I asked how she was, and he said that she was not doing all right. I made the mistake of saying that I have never seen these two happy. Maybe she is broken now, but she will see that too and be happy he took this step. They are miserable together. My husband was silent on the other end, and then I heard her voice yelling and crying. My husband never said I was on speaker and she was beside him. She already never liked me, but now she hated me. I tried to apologize, but it was just futile because she knew I meant it. That was what her ex said too, that they are miserable together and that he resented her. After a couple of weeks, she told my husband that the reason her husband left her was because of me, that we were cheating. My husband confronted me, and I immediately gave him all my devices to look. He did, and he believed me at first. But it took him a month of silent treatment to at last say that he couldn't be with me anymore. He was silent with me, but he was on daily basis contact with his sister. It broke my heart completely. One comment of me ruined my relationship, but what broke me more was that my husband wasn't the beautiful, kind human I thought he was. He was just weak. His kindness is weakness, even if he believed me initially. The constant stream of bullying and abuse of my character from his sister, and sometimes even his mother, swayed his confidence in me, and even his feelings towards me if he ever had any genuine feelings. I took my own advice about my relationship not being as great as I thought, and maybe him ending it was a blessing. I met ex-Bill in the beginning of summer, and he said that he's heard about what happened, and that he was sorry he was the reason for ending my marriage. He said he felt guilty because he always told his ex how he admired our marriage and the love we had to each other. He compared it to what he wanted in a relationship, so he felt partially responsible for driving his ex-wife to try to hurt me that way. We kept in touch over text for a few months, and we slept together for the first time about a couple of months ago. I know it is very low, but I felt very vindicated. I don't feel as hurt at the injustice of being falsely accused of something like that, because it feels like I have done what they accuse me of now. I do feel dome guilt sometimes, especially last week when my husband wanted to meet and discuss maybe postponing the divorce until we talk and maybe talk to a therapist. Ironically, he now believes me because his sister is crazy. It is too late, dear husband. Stories number 14. Aita for saying I don't care about my sister's rejection-sensitive dysphoria, and will be having my wedding the way I want it. I have posted an update to this post. I know sometimes it might seem like the answer is obvious, but I am honestly asking for the truth because I am getting so much pressure from my family that it is becoming unbearable now. I am 30, am newly engaged. My fiancé of 30 and I have been together for 2 years, and we both feel ready for the next step. We don't want a big wedding. We both come from huge families, and we don't want to deal with the costs and the headache of planning a huge event. Our plan is to go to City Hall and sign the required papers. We would invite my parents, my sister, my brother-in-law, my fiancé's father, sister, brother-in-law, and brother, as well as 2 of my friends, since they were the ones who set me and my fiancé up when we were in the armed forces. After City Hall, we would all go out for dinner. We don't want any other wedding stuff or any kind of reception. When my older sister got married 3 years ago, I ended up being thankful I was stationed in another country and wasn't at home. I was in the Air Force at the time. She had a huge, expensive wedding, and then took an expensive trip to the United States for her honeymoon. This is normal in our family, but watching the wedding on a live stream was enough for me. I was getting a headache when I was hearing about the planning secondhand. My fiancé and don't want that stress. I thought my family would have a problem with us not having big wedding or only inviting my parents, sister and brother-in-law. But my sister got upset because she wanted to be my fiancé's maid of honor. We aren't even having a maid of honor, best man, or wedding party at all, even if we were. My fiancé would want her own sister to be maid of honor, not my sister. My sister also thought she would get a special role in the wedding as sister of the groom, which isn't a thing as far as I know. She wants to have a moment where she walks down the aisle alone before my wife does. I've never seen anything like that at wedding I've ever gone to. Only the bride or one half of the couple and sometimes the father walks down the aisle. For full disclosure, my sister has ADHD, and with that she also has something called rejection-sensitive dysphoria. She takes rejection really personally, and even though my parents sent her to therapy before, she still takes it hard when she thinks someone has rejected her, even if they haven't really done that. I told her my fiancé and I aren't having wedding parties, or a wedding where other people have a special role or moment. She feels rejected, and now my parents, my brother-in-law, and other people in my family are pressuring me to change my mind. Aita, for telling my sister and everyone else that I don't care if she feels rejected and won't change a thing about the wedding. It gets annoying to have everything revolve around my sister's feelings all the damn time. I don't think it's wrong for me and my fiancé to want our wedding day to be about us, instead of giving my sister the role of maid of honor, groom's sister, and letting her be the center of attention like she wants. My parents and my brother-in-law are the worst offenders, and I ended up telling them and everyone else who pressured me that I'm done talking about this and to never bring it up again. Aita, for this, I just want to have my wedding the way my fiancé and I want it. But my family has never gotten so upset at me about anything else before, so I wonder if I overstepped. Edited to add, to whoever is sending me Reddit cares messages. I am fine and don't need that. Update. Aita for saying I don't care about my sister's rejection-sensitive dysphoria, and will be having my wedding the way I want it. We got married, we had the wedding we wanted. On Friday afternoon we went to City Hall, signed the paperwork, and had a very quick ceremony. We invited my wife's dad, her sister and brother-in-law, her brother and his fiancé, and my best friend and his wife. My best friend and his wife were the ones who introduced me to my wife. Back when my friend, my wife and I were serving in the armed forces, that evening everyone went out to a nearby restaurant for dinner. Everyone took some photos so we can remember the day, but things were very relaxed. We all wore clothes we already had and we kept everything low-key. My wife and I spent Saturday together, and we both have to work today. We decided not to invite my sister, brother-in-law, and parents because of how they were acting. The last straw was them trying to say my father-in-law was on their side and wanted us to have a big wedding. He never said that. I actually think he was a tiny bit relieved because my wife's sister got married this year, and her brother is getting married next year. My father-in-law doesn't try to control the weddings of his kids. He helps out with errands if he's needed, but he doesn't try to control or change things. I think he was relieved my wife and I didn't have a big wedding, but he would never say that out loud or comment on his kids having a big or small wedding. My sister and everyone else are upset, but I honestly don't care. I don't think it is unreasonable for a couple to have the wedding they want, or to have all the attention on them when it's their wedding day. I can't believe my parents and my brother-in-law are entertaining her ideas on this. If we did have wedding parties, my wife would want her own sister as the maid of honor, not my sister. I don't know where my sister got the idea she would get to walk down the aisle alone with flowers before my wife did, or have a special role as sister of the groom. I don't know why my parents and my brother-in-law think they get to control my wedding. My wife and I are adults. We don't live with any of them, and we have jobs, our own money. I put my foot down that my wife and I had the wedding we wanted, And we will not be having any other wedding-related stuff. We are done. My wife and I are ecstatic about being married, and that's all I care about. I appreciated all the support in my last post. Edit, I have been told it is common in America, the UK, and other places for the wedding party to walk down the aisle. I hadn't heard of it because, as I explained in my post, that isn't done here. Also, even if it was, my sister wouldn't have been part of the wedding party. My wife would have chosen her own sister and her friends, and I would have chosen my friends. It would have looked very strange for my sister to walk down the aisle alone before my wife did. Comments. Commenter 1. My husband has rejection-sensitive dysphoria. I don't think your sister's issues in respect to your wedding were related to RSD, because that's not really how it works. I think your sister may well have RSD, but she's also got a bad case of main character syndrome, and needs to be center stage at all times, even when things are not about her. In other words, she's just a self-absorbed asshole at times, completely separate to her mental health conditions. I'm glad you two had the wedding you wanted. Congratulations. Commenter 2, I think it's kinda obvious. Despite getting you sister therapy, your parents have been undermining that therapy for years by caving to your sister. They should have gotten guidance via therapy as well for raising their child. Instead, I'm betting they used any excuse to spoil her. And I have to say, this behavior sounds more narcissistic to me. She didn't have a problem with rejection. She actually tried to create a scenario to make herself the center of attention. These are very distinctly different behaviors, commenter 3. So if you have rejection-related dysphoria, everyone has to do exactly what you want? Wow, that sounds more like narcissism to me. Stories number 15. My girlfriend told me about some mean pranks she did to a slower kid in high school. Is it a red flag even though it was a few years ago? So I-24M have only known my current GF-22F for about 3 months, but we have great chemistry so far. A few days ago we were talking about some stories we each had from high school. She told me about a weird kid in her school that her friends used to mess with. She used to pretend to be interested in being his girlfriend, and then she'd embarrass him by getting him to do something humiliating, or showing their private texts to other people, etc. Or they'd set up some kind of elaborate prank on him. In the story she told me, she was on a date with him one night in a park, and she told him she wanted him to take off his pants for her. After he did it, her other friends came and took the pants, and everyone drove away, leaving him alone to walk home in his underwear. She told me more stories, but you get the point. It made me sad, though, because I got the impression the guy might have been a little mentally disabled or something, because she said that after everything they'd do, he still wouldn't understand that she was in on all these pranks with her other friends. She'd either pretend it had nothing to do with her, or she'd make up some excuse, I guess. And the kid kept falling for it. She really thought it was funny, though. Like she could barely contain herself while she was telling me this stuff. It's been a few days and it's bothering me, so I figured I'd ask for some advice. I have a feeling this is a huge overreaction. It's just a strange feeling because she seemed incredibly sweet up to this point. But after telling me this story and the lack of remorse, it's difficult to look at her the same way. I'm not perfect by any means, and I feel like I'm being a dick for judging someone about something that happened in high school, but it still bothered me. Thanks for any advice. Relevant comments. Commenter Q. Be honest with yourself here. She repeatedly cultivated a fake romantic interest between herself and a vulnerable person purely to victimize them. She didn't make a spur-of-the-moment error of judgment. Both her and her friends planned this out, laid the groundwork, and then executed it again and again. She didn't just mess around with someone's heart. She went all out to humiliate and harm their mental health. You have no idea how deeply the damage they did to this guy runs. Even to this day, people have taken their own life because of the impact bullying has had on them. And yet she has not a single shred of remorse. She thinks it's a hoot, a great tale to tell to garner a few giggles. There is something fundamentally wrong with your girlfriend. Something you can't fix and could be turned against you one day, should you not meet her expectations somehow. At 3 months in, I'd call this a deal breaker and make my excuses to end things. Actually, even at 3 years in, I'd be out. I wouldn't want to risk raising a family with someone who found such cruelty so amusing, just in case they tried passing on their warped ideas at humor onto our kids. Reply, that's an insightful way of putting it. It's just difficult for me to make sense of these actions given everything else I know about her. But you're right, what she did was really terrible, and it's hard to find an excuse for it. Commenter 3. One of my favorite high school memories was explaining to the slow guy that the other kids were not being friendly and were mocking him fucking with him. It was definitely a not laughing with situation. He beat the shit out of them the next time they messed with him. I went to the principal and explained what had happened. He didn't get in trouble. I got told to never fucking do that again. Every job I worked in that town, he'd come visit and shop there. Many years later, I worked with his brother, who was not impaired. He hugged me and said that I changed the course of his brother's life. He'd been quiet and bullied until I calmly explained things to him. After that, he became outgoing and confident. He'd ride the bus to go around town and just had a happy, vibrant life. Teenagers do dumb, cruel shit. One of the signs of growing up is leaving that shitty behavior behind. The fact that she seems to look back on treating an impaired person like shit is something like a cherished memory. Run, don't walk. It's in no way an overreaction. She's a cruel, shitty person. Reply. That's a great story. I just wanted to thank everyone for all your advice so far. I have a lot to think about, and I'm pretty set on breaking up with her, but as someone else suggested, I do want to talk to her and see what she says. If I actually confront her about what she did being wrong. The story she told me made me sad, but the response of all of you made me really happy to see so many great people, and to know that I wasn't overthinking it. By the way, I can't find the comment now, but someone said she probably teases dogs by holding food over its face. Just wanted to say you're correct. That's what she did the first time she ate near my dog until I told her to stop. I hate when people do that, but I know a lot of people do, so I didn't think much of it. But seriously, amazing prediction. Thanks for helping connect the dots. Update. Hey everyone. First, I wanted to say thanks for all the advice you gave me originally. I asked the question thinking I was overreacting, but as I read some of your responses, especially from those who had traumatic experience themselves, it sort of knocked some sense into me, so I appreciate that. That being said, this was still pretty hard for me, even though we've only been together for 3 months. I know that sounds silly, but it's true. I decided to take the advice of talking to her before breaking up. People wanted to know what the result was, so I'll try to briefly give you the gist of it. Last night we hung out for a couple hours, and to be honest, we really had a great time together. And it was hard for me to even have this conversation at the end of it. I wanted to just move on and ignore the red flag, but I knew it shouldn't be ignored. I brought up the kid she told me about again, but I did it very casually, not like I was gonna lecture her or something, so her guard was still down. She started laughing just at the mention of him. She casually told me another story of her friend's antics with him. I then asked her why they liked to mess with him so much. She paused for a second and then kind of giggled and said, I don't know. He was just a douchebag, I asked. Why was he a douchebag? Did he do something to you to make you mad at him? She said, not really. He was just so stupid and naive it was annoying. There was a pause because I didn't really know how to follow up to that answer. Then she continued and said exact words, he had no purpose. He was just there to make people laugh. It really made me sad to hear that because I wanted there to be some explanation that reduced the cruelty of the situation. But there wasn't. I got kind of angry, and I just told her that everything she told me was absolutely horrific. That she should think about how she would feel if someone did these things to her. I said that to torture an innocent person just because it's entertaining is a totally inhuman thing. And the fact that she still has the same mindset today shows how immature she is on top of it. I'm normally not harsh like that, but it just came out. While I was talking, she gave me a look of total incredulity, like she thought I was joking or going insane or something. I told her I can't continue a relationship with somebody like this, even though we had such a great thing up to this point. I actually had to convince her I was serious and not joking around. She thought the real reason I wanted to break up was this minor thing that happened a couple weeks ago. She just couldn't believe that I was ending the relationship because of this. Once she knew I was serious, she got extremely angry, saying that I was just getting off on shaming her because I wanted to abuse her, and that I have no right to talk to her like that and so on. She called me all kinds of names and said how she never liked me anyway, and how I'm a loser, etc., etc. But other than that, we parted ways smoothly. I got some angry text this morning, which I'm saving for a while just in case. So there it is. I honestly feel better already because I know it's for the better, especially considering her reaction. I figured I'd give you this update since everyone seemed pretty interested in the situation. Thanks again, stories number 16. You give me an unwanted midnight concert. I give you an unwanted wake-up call. So this is a story from back in 2009-10. I was an undergrad at a small state college, lovely campus, rural, beautiful, but getting to class was a bit of a challenge because it was extremely hilly, borderline mountainous. With the dorms up at the top of the hill, you had to either make sure you had all your things prepared for the day, or you would be running back up to collect the things you needed, and if you had back-to-back classes, that was simply not going to happen without you being very late. After a day of moving between classes, most people were pretty tired just on the merits of walking up and down hills all day without even considering the classes in addition. Not directly relevant to the story, but important for framing. I was in the same dorm room all 4 years, and ended up having 3 different roommates. The first didn't return for the second semester of the first year. Second-year roommates never showed up at all. Third-year roommate and I got along well, but he joined the on-campus EMT team and they had dorms for those folks elsewhere, leaving me with a new guy and the subject of this petty revenge story. Seemed like an alright guy when I first met him. He was an exchange student from the Netherlands, and I thought that was pretty cool because I had not had many opportunities to meet people from other parts of the world. It became apparent pretty quickly, however, that we were not very compatible. I was and am pretty introverted, mostly kept to myself and did my own thing, spent plenty of time playing video games, usually wearing earphones to avoid disturbing others, or being disturbed myself. He, on the other hand, clearly came to get the college experience, and went out a lot to do whatever he cared to do. To be very clear, there is nothing wrong with this. Where M screwed up was that he constantly returned to the room late, with friends, and often put on music while they talked, usually at or around midnight and into the wee hours of the morning. Multiple times I would be woken up and asked them, respectfully, if they could turn down the music or go elsewhere when it is the middle of the night and I am trying to sleep. Usually got blank stares, but begrudgingly compliance. Problem solved? Well, not really, because this pattern repeated almost every night, and it stopped being a minor disturbance and became a constant source of annoyance. I was more of a morning person at the time. I woke up at 4:35, packed my stuff for the day, and then went down to the gym to get my day started. I tried very hard not to be disruptive to any of my roommates during my undergrad years. Tried to be quick to turn off the alarm. Avoided turning on lights as much as possible and generally try to be courteous, because I understand wanting to sleep and not wanting to be bothered when you are sleeping. Despite M's constant disruptions, I did my best to continue to be courteous, but my patience at the end of that first semester of my final year was about shot. While I recovered a little over the winter break, it became clear upon M's return that he was not going to be doing any better, and in many ways, got worse. More people. Louder music. After the first month of the new semester, I was about to lose my cool. I was having to tell M to be quiet most nights, and I was to the point that I was not being polite about it anymore. Finally, my breaking point arrived. M had been particularly loud and disruptive the night before. I just ignored it, but come morning he was going to feel my pain. Alarm goes off. I get up, but I do not turn it off. I had a stereo that I used as speakers for my computer. Pull up my music and turn it on, loud enough that there was no way anyone in the room could ignore it, but hopefully not enough to disturb people in other rooms. No one else complained at least, and I start getting ready for my day. Loudly. All the lights in the room are on. Drawers and doors being opened and closed with absolutely no regard for the other person trying to sleep as I banged through the apartment like the police looking for the stash of drugs. M turned over to ask me to keep it quiet. I stared him right in the eyes and said nothing. I basically dared him to have the gall to explain to me why what I was doing was wrong while his behavior had been okay. After a few seconds of awkward silence, he must have realized that I didn't care, and that he didn't have a leg to stand on, so he rolled over, pulled the blanket over his head, and just endured it. I finished getting ready, finally shut off the alarm, music, shut off the lights, and with a final slam of the dorm door, I move on with my day. I never discussed the incident with M, but he clearly got the message because he was very respectful for the last couple of months. He made sure to wear headphones and to come and go at night while I was sleeping as quietly as possible, and we had no further problems. It is disappointing that someone would need that much of a wake-up call, pun intended, to not be a dick when you are living in shared living space. M is a tool. Don't be M, or you might get a rude awakening. Stories number 17. Not having a car cost me more than my rent. My shitty car broke down months ago. I live alone and don't have family or friends who can or are willing to help me with rides. I make $500 a week and have to spend about $200 of it on Ubers just to get to and from work. So I basically make $300 a week now, which isn't enough to cover my health insurance, phone, internet, dental insurance, car insurance, electricity bill, my monthly medicine, groceries, etc. Believe it or not, I was able to afford all of that before my car broke down. Can't take time off work. Cannot afford to miss a single day. No usable PTO. No one I can get rides from. No public transport. Too far to bike or walk. Nobody that can help me with getting a new car. Credit is very low and I have no savings. So how do I get my car fixed? Well, my brother has limited experience working on cars, and I have literally no money for a mechanic. So I guess he will work on it. I took out a loan to pay my rent and buy a $500 car part from a junkyard where I was advised to go, and guess what? He couldn't use the part. Junkyard guy was a prick. So now I am paying another $45 week for this loan. That brings me down to about $255 week now. So now I basically make $900 month living in a $750 month apartment with bills out my ass. Oh, and I have a fucking cat that relies on me. My saving grace. Hopefully my brother says he can dip into his small amount of savings to buy brand new parts that will actually work, and I can pay him back instead of taking out another horrible loan. But he first needs to order them, wait for them to ship, then actually put them into the car. That was 3 weeks ago. He has 2 kids and is a single parent working full-time, so this is going to take a while. It's already been about 6 months from when my car first broke down. In the meantime, I've been spending $200 a week on fucking Uber. I can't afford groceries. I can't afford anything anymore. My mom helps me here and there with groceries or Uber money, but all I really need is my car back and functioning. That's literally it. Here I am at work, pissy now because a customer who bought $50 worth of nicotine said she's broke because she buys $40 foundation, but it lasts 4 months. And sometimes it's like, I have to choose between that and groceries, while laughing. She was wearing multiple gold necklaces or rings and left in a newer looking car. I really don't think she's choosing between makeup and groceries. Or maybe she is and she's just really that stupid. Venting because I'm just so done with this BS. I just want my stupid car back, edit, because I can't reply to all of you. No, I cannot move in with my brother, cannot legally drive an e-bike on 1-lane highways, which is the only way to work. Not to mention winter is coming and they don't plow. The road distance from home to work is 13 miles. It would be a 4-1-2-hour walk on 1-lane highways. So I can't walk or bike. Like I said before, there are no public transportation options for me. I already own a bike, but it's unsafe to ride it on the highway to work. Renting a car costs quite literally the exact same as Uber's weekly. Renting a car is not cheap. Maybe it's my area. I don't know. I had an Uber driver offer to give me rides on his own, like on the side, and he could get all the cash instead of Uber. But guess what the price was? The same as taking Uber SMH. Just a reminder that I posted this as event. Some of y'all are a little mean, but nothing I can't handle. I have tried everything suggested. There are no FB groups. Nobody does carpool for a job out in the boonies. Can't bike or e-bike, no public transport. My only option is to wait for this car to be done and hope it doesn't fail again before I can save some money. Comments. Commenter 1. $866 a month on Ubers isn't sustainable and is not worth it for a job that pays $12,050 an hour, assuming you get full-time hours. What part does your car need? Reply, I make $16.25, 40 hours week Illinois taxes. I agree it's not worth it. I just don't have a degree or anything besides menial retail experience. I don't have any useful skills that sets me apart that would get me a job making more than minimum wage for now. I would like to go to school at some point. As for car parts, I need multiple. I am not exactly sure what's going on with the car, but I do know I need a sub-rear frame, a new tire, and the suspension need to be fixed. Probably will need to get an alignment after he's done with it as well. Commenter 2. I actually just went through something very similar. I ended up quitting the job that I had to Uber to. It was costing me half my paycheck just to get to work. I found a job way closer to me and actually just walk there, and I'm thinking of getting a bike. And I've just got hired at a second job that I can also just walk to, so I can start saving up for a car. If you can maybe find a job closer to you, taking Uber and Lyft is not sustainable. Unless you can get her car fixed very soon. Commenter 3. Daughter passed away. Logging onto her island. My daughter passed away last month. On clearing her house, I found the Switch I bought her at the start of lockdown. I bought one too, and also Animal Crossing for us both. We spent months playing, often visiting each other island. But it's been a couple of years since either of us played. Seeing the Switch was a gut punch. I'm not ready to log onto it yet, but when I do, what did other bereaved people do? Did you just walk around or change anything or add a memorial? Edit. Oh my goodness, I'm so glad I posted. Some truly beautiful ideas here, thank you. I've read and will continue to read every post. Comments. Commenter 1. I lost my son almost 2 years ago, and I find that we each have our own grief journey. So there is no one right answer to your question. However, I would back it up with a dream address immediately. Should that switch die, that would break your heart again. Personally, I go through phases where my son's belongings bring solace, and days when I can't even look at anything that belonged to him. I would not change a thing on her island, but build a memorial on mine. Although, it'll be honest, my boy and I played Pokemon Go together, and I will never be able to play again now that he is gone. So there is that. Commenter 2, I'm sorry for your loss. As for her island, don't change anything. Make a backup and dream address so you can visit it whenever. Additional tip, make sure to take note of her address. Time travel to the time and season. You think her island looks best and feels most memorable to you? You can only save one per island. Commenter. This is a great idea. The dream address will capture the island as it is, and OP can visit without having to turn on her switch. I am so sorry for OP's loss. Commenter 3, when my best friend died, it took me a few months before I was able to play Minecraft again. But now whenever I miss him, or want to feel close to him, I can go on our Minecraft server and hang around his base. Like we used to do. It is totally okay to not be ready. You can take all the time you need if you are able. Try to back up your daughter's island, but if you are not ready to do that, then don't worry. You don't have to rush it. Commenter 5, not quite the same situation OFC, but I miscarried my daughter, my first child this year. I made the basement of my house on my island into her room, with things that I thought were pretty and childlike. Once I get the things needed, I do plan on making a small gravesite for her as well. Reply. Please don't say it's not the same. We shouldn't gatekeep grief. I'm so sorry you lost your daughter. I visited the cemetery yesterday where we're going to have the memorial, and they have a special area for babies born asleep. It was beautiful. Update. I thought it might be months until I could face logging onto her island. But the compassion and gentleness from this community on my last post made me want to do it. I haven't changed a thing on her character or island, but I did go and weed and clear the cockroaches. On my island, I will be creating a proper memorial. But until then, I made an area of yellow flowers, her favorite color, and had her visit. Here we are sitting by the ocean. She's the one dressed oddly. Thank you for all your suggestions and condolences. It means so much. Animal Crossing Island, comments. Commenter 1. AW. Now you can visit each other whenever you like. This is so sweet, and I'm sorry for your loss. Commenter 2. I'm glad you have a way to keep her memory alive and visit a version of her. Grief is a multifaceted feeling, and I hope that you take care of yourself. Best wishes. Commenter 3. I love that she has mom's cake sitting there next to you guys. Stories number 18. Daughter passed away. Logging onto her island. My daughter passed away last month. On clearing her house, I found the Switch I bought her at the start of lockdown. I bought one too, and also Animal Crossing for us both. We spent months playing, often visiting each other's island. But it's been a couple of years since either of us played. Seeing the Switch was a gut punch. I'm not ready to log on to it yet, but when I do. What did other bereaved people do? Did you just walk around, or change anything, or add a memorial? Edit. Oh my goodness, I'm so glad I posted. Some truly beautiful ideas here, thank you. I've read and will continue to read every post. Comments. Commenter 1. I lost my son almost 2 years ago, and I find that we each have our own grief journey, so there is no one right answer to your question. However, I would back it up with a dream address immediately. Should that Switch die, that would break your heart again. Personally, I go through phases where my son's belongings bring solace, and days when I can't even look at anything that belonged to him. I would not change a thing on her island, but build a memorial on mine. Although, it'll be honest, my boy and I played Pokemon Go together, and I will never be able to play again now that he is gone. So there is that. Commenter 2. I'm sorry for your loss. As for her island, don't change anything. Make a backup and dream address so you can visit it whenever. Additional tip, make sure to take note of her address. Time travel to the time and season you think her island looks best and feels most memorable to you. You can only save one per island. Commenter 3. This is a great idea. The dream address will capture the island as it is, and OP can visit without having to turn on her Switch. I am so sorry for OP's loss. Commenter 4. When my best friend died, it took me a few months before I was able to play Minecraft again. But now whenever I miss him, or want to feel close to, Him I can go on our Minecraft server and hang around his base. Like we used to do, it is totally okay to not be ready. You can take all the time you need. If you are able, try to back up your daughter's island. But if you are not ready to do that, then don't worry. You don't have to rush it. Commenter 5. Not quite the same situation OFC. But I miscarried my daughter, my first child this year. I made the basement of my house on my island into her room, with things that I thought were pretty and childlike. Once I get the things needed, I do plan on making a small gravesite for her as well. OP, please don't say it's not the same. We shouldn't gatekeep grief. I'm so sorry you lost your daughter. I visited the cemetery yesterday where we're going to have the memorial, and they have a special area for babies born asleep. It was beautiful. Update. I thought it might be months until I could face logging onto her island. But the compassion and gentleness from this community on my last post made me want to do it. I haven't changed a thing on her character or island, but I did go and weed and clear the cockroaches. On my island, I will be creating a proper memorial. But until then, I made an area of yellow flowers, her favorite color, and had her visit. Here we are sitting by the ocean. She's the one dressed oddly. Thank you for all your suggestions and condolences. It means so much. Animal Crossing Island, comments. Commenter 1, AW, now you can visit each other whenever you like. This is so sweet, and I'm sorry for your loss. Commenter 2, I'm glad you have a way to keep her memory alive and visit a version of her. Grief is a multifaceted feeling, and I hope that you take care of yourself. Best wishes. Commenter 3, I love that she has mom's cake sitting there next to you guys. Stories number 19, Aita for refusing to take down my post and letting my ex face the consequences of her cheating. I was with my ex-K for 2 years and living together since a year. To make all the drama short, I found out she was having an affair since 6 months with her boss. I found out about it and broke up with her on the spot. K didn't even try to justify or denied and just moved out. But here comes the main thing on all this mess. Honestly, I wasn't expecting that she would bring our breakup on IG, but she did with the classic BS of me holding her back. A brighting future was waiting her and all this type of stuff. But here comes my part, because the one thing that made me mad as hell is one of her posts when she said that I was abusing her emotionally and physically. I have a special spot on this because I volunteer in one of those abused women's centers, and I provide housing for real victims of abuse. It's a long story about a female friend of mine who died because of her ex, and that thing particularly touched me. And it was the main reason why I'm volunteering, so you can imagine the rage and anger I felt when she posted about this fake bees. So I simply made a post on my IG page with the proofs of her cheating and tagged her directly. Well, the part I wasn't expecting comes now because, to me, for no reason, it's like IG decided to make my post goes viral in our community, and the internet rage started under her posts. I was expecting maybe someone calling her out and nothing more, but the consequences hit her harder than I could expect, because in just 2 weeks, her profile is full of people calling her every possible name in the book. People wishing her the worst stuff and all these things. But K, being K, instead of doing what normal people would do, doubled down and got even more hate and worse stuff than I thought was possible. But the cherry on top was the fact that she is now on administrative leave. Because apparently her boss tried to throw her under the bus to save his job, and mostly because her job's page became flooded with not-so-kind comments about her, from the classic fire her to stuff I can't say here. And the most insane thing happened 3 days ago, because her car has been smashed by someone, not me, obviously, because I have better stuff to do than worrying about a cheating ex. And even her own family started to get harassed by people and on their socials. And yesterday she wrote me from a new number asking me to delete my post, because she couldn't keep up anymore by Pule insulting her on every post she makes, and the job thing was the last straw. Honestly, I wasn't expecting all this mess, and of course some people crossed a line with her car, her family, and her job. But you know what? I don't feel bad for her at all. I mean, she knew about my spot for abused women, and tried to paint me as a villain by accusing me of stuff. She knew exactly how I feel about, so maybe it's because it's all still fresh. But I don't feel bad for her and have no intention to take down my post, which actually gained me 50K followers out of nowhere. So Aita for refusing to take my post down and letting her face the consequences of her cheating. Update. Aita for refusing to take down my post and letting my ex face the consequences of her Cheating? Here's the update on how things ended up, and I really hope to post again about more funny and better stuff than all this drama. In the last post, I talked about my ex texting me to delete the post and end all this charade, and at the end, we come to an agreement. The agreement is extremely simple. She makes a public post on her IG page in which she honestly tells the truth about how our relationship ended and takes full accountability for her false allegations, and then, and only then, I take down my post. 3 days ago, she agreed, and she did actually. Under that post, she got more hate than before. But that's not my problem, and I did the same. About all this mess, I have to say that in this last 2 days after her apology post, like I call it, the situation have calmed down pretty naturally, but she still receives hate and death threats. On this part, I have to say that before deleting my post, I made it clear that insulting my ex and wishing her death wasn't normal. So to please stop all this charade and respect her apologies. So until now, her profile passed from 2K comments to almost 500, and like I said, almost all not exactly kind, but the situation is going better, and I think because people got tired of this drama and simply moved on another one. In the last post, someone talked about a lawsuit for defamation, and you're absolutely right. But I just didn't had any intention and energy for something I just wanted to make disappear faster than I could. And for the last point, someone asked me if I resented her for all of this mess. But actually I don't. What I feel for her is just pity and disappointment. The internet rage did the rest, even if I don't approve obviously for the death threats and all the extreme part. So that's it, and I really hope to not update you anymore on all this mess. Stories number 20. My husband 36M shouted contribute more at me 34F. After years of me doing everything. Hi everyone. I 34F have been with my husband 36M for 10 years, almost 3 of those married. Happy for the most part. We both work full-time. He earns more than double what I do, but we always split everything 50-50. That left me with almost no savings at the end of the month. About 2 years ago, I started pushing back on that because it didn't feel fair, and things changed. But I've been contributing financially my part. I also used to handle everything around the house: cleaning, groceries, cooking, scheduling appointments, managing the mental load, etc. He would do house projects, yard work, help with the pets, and a few other things time to time, but the day-to-day stuff was all on me. So I think I contributed there more than enough. He just doesn't see it. When our daughter was born, everything changed. I had a really rough postpartum period. She was waking up every hour or more to breastfeed, and I completely burned out after a few months. My mental health tanked. Some days, I'd barely added just peanuts or chips or stuff like that because I couldn't bring myself to cook. He did then almost all the household chores while I took care of the baby 24/7. Thankfully, my daughter sleeps better now, though she still wakes up early around 6 a.m. My husband is the one who usually gets up with her, and he complains about it constantly. I get that he's tired, but after everything I went through during those endless days and nights, it's hard to feel sympathy when I never got that kind of understanding. I eventually hired a cleaning lady for 8 hours a week to 4-hour days, just so things didn't completely fall apart. But it still feels like we're drowning. This morning, he actually yelled, "Contribute more." It completely broke me. I'm still working full-time, taking care of our daughter, and doing everything I can to stay afloat, and he still thinks I'm not doing enough now. My husband says I complain too much, and okay, maybe I do. I'm exhausted, anxious, and constantly in pain. But instead of trying to talk about things, he leaves the room every time I start speaking. He says he just wants calmness. He said other mean things related to that as well. He also says he's doing too much now. I tried explaining that I overdid it for 10 years, and that this imbalance can't continue. Meanwhile, he still spends 2-3 hours a day on his computer, phone, or tablet. He doesn't seem to appreciate what I did before, or what I'm still trying to do now. And when I mention my anxiety disorder, he kind of brushes it off, even makes fun of it sometimes, and tells me to just get over it and live my life. As if I hadn't thought of that already. It's hard to understand when you are not mentally ill. I get that. But I'm battling anxiety every single day. And it's so tough, for the record. He's not lazy, he does a lot, but he's not used to juggling this much. And he doesn't seem to grasp the invisible load I've carried all this time. Which hurts. We had been talking about having another child soon. Since I don't want a huge age gap, and I don't see myself doing this again at 40, but I'm just so tired. I'm working full-time and spending almost all of my free time taking care of our daughter. I love her more than anything, but it's hard. She doesn't let me do much, and now my husband is realizing how much work there is. I think about divorce often. For the most part, we had a great relationship, and I don't want to affect my daughter. If anyone has been in a similar situation, how did you make it better? What could I do to make the relationship good again for the sake of my baby? Communication is almost impossible now, TLDR. My husband 36M and I 34F both work full-time, but he used to leave most of the housework and mental load to me. Since our daughter was born, I've been struggling mentally and physically, while he complains about the many things he does now. Even screamed "contribute more" at me today. I'm exhausted, still doing stuff, and starting to wonder if divorce might be the only way out, or if this is just normal after having a baby. Comments. Commenter 1. Know this, do not get pregnant. This is not a wholesome environment in which to welcome another human. Considering all the issues, strongly consider having an only child. Prioritize your mental health. If you're not healthy in both mind and body, then you can't be anything to anyone. Not a mom to your daughter, not a wife to your husband, and equally importantly, not a person to yourself. Once your mental health improves, you'll probably have more clarity to make important decisions. Commenter 2. Crazy idea. What if you just stop contributing at all for a week? Don't even bring the cleaning lady in, you contributed wholly to hiring her. I assume just keep up with yourself and baby. Or go visit a friend or some family for weekends, see how he fares with doing it all by himself, house and your daughter. If you can't trust him alone to look after your child in the evenings for a week. Also, assuming she's in some kind of childcare as you both work full-time, why are you even with the guy? Reply, that's basically what happened. I contributed way less than what he was used to, and now all hell is breaking loose. I had to hire the cleaning lady because he was so overwhelmed. But still, he doesn't realize how much I've done and expect things to go back the way they were. The truth is that a baby is another full-time job. Commenter 3. Do not have another child with this man, and your thoughts about divorce are reasonable. He wants calmness? Then he should do his fair share. Commenter 4. If you're thinking about divorce often but don't want to for your daughter, please, for the love of God, get divorced. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. My parents were in this situation. Mom stayed for the kids, and us living with our dad for so long fucked us up. He never contributed in the same way. The mental and emotional burden of the family was always on my mom. There are dads who actually split things equitably with moms when raising children. This is not it. Stories number 21. Aita for refusing to help my brother after his ex-girlfriend scammed him out of nearly half the equity of his house. I 37F have an older brother, George 45M, who isn't an idiot, but he can be lazy. Definitely the type to rely on weaponized incompetence whenever women and girls are around. Example. He literally acted like he didn't know where our mom kept the paper plates in the house he lived in for nearly 20 years, just so she'd get up, go into the kitchen and make him his plate during the holidays, just 1 week post her bunion surgery. Side note. They both tried to passive-aggressively make me feel guilty for not offering to fix my adult brothers so our mom wouldn't have to do it. Like I wasn't the only doing the most of cooking and would be doing most of cleaning afterwards. At age 30, George was given a windfall from our grandfather's estate. I got something too, and used it as a down payment for a nice 5-bedroom house, and that easily worth double now. During this time he met Melinda 50F, and she was nice lady. Smart, responsible, hardworking, sweet, and very organized. She came into the relationship with a steady job and was upfront about lack of ability to have more children. After complications from nearly losing her life giving her to her daughter, George stated that he was okay with that. But whenever Melinda would bring up his hesitation regarding marriage, he'd say that he had complicated feelings about not being able to be a father if he chose to fully commit to her that he needed to process, saying that since he was willing to look over her fertility issues because he loved her, that she needed to show her love by waiting for him. That line worked for 12 years. After Melinda moved in, George demanded that she pay half the bills and part of his mortgage in exchanging for allowing Melinda's daughter to move in with her. At the time, Melinda had little options as her former landlord was raising the rent too high, and she was helping pay for her sister's medicals bills. Melinda and George justified to everyone by saying what she would have had to pay to George was still cheaper in rent at her old place. I said nothing because not my relationship. 2 years ago, George was caught cheating and Melinda was furious, then left. I don't know all the details, but she came back seeming to work things out. Didn't stop George from cheating, but Melinda shrugged and said that this was still a better deal. And so long as kept it from the house, she's cope. Recently, there was some type of damage to George's house, and he needed people to come in and fix it. But he hated the labor of searching for a reliable contractor. Taking time away from his job hobbies to deal with them and the paperwork, Melinda offered to do it and he didn't question it. Whatever she gave, he signed, and in front of third-party witnesses, Melinda got George to sign paperwork, stating that she was entitled to 45% of his house. Now she's dumped him and is demanding that George either sell his house or buy her out. George is trying to fight this, citing that he didn't fully understand what he was agreeing to, and he's found a lawyer willing to take his case. But his fees are expensive. George and our mom think that I should help. But I'm refusing. I don't see why I have to shell out thousands to save another grown man from his own lack foresight, especially when there's a good chance he won't even win. I'm being cold-heartless and a bad sister, so I have to ask Aita? Relevant comments. Downvoted commenter. You can't give a part of the house without a notary contract. Whatever he signed, he's an idiot for not reading. He should have left this woman a long time ago. Reply. I believe the third party who witnessed my brother sign the document, was a licensed notary. Commenter 1, NTA, but who is expecting to have more kids with a 50 years old? For me, it sounds more like he was looking for an excuse to play victim since the beginning of the relationship. BTW. I'm not the youngest woman and I think this question is important. Reply. She was in her 40s when they got together. But I agree he was just using that as an excuse. Commenter 2. I think it's funny how you say he's not an idiot, and then you go on to explain exactly why he is an idiot. Reply. I truly don't believe that my brother is an idiot. He's just lazy. Like if he actually put in the time and work to actually fact-check, Melinda wouldn't have been able to do what she did. Commenter 3. NTA George had it coming, stringing that woman along for years. Manipulating her by making her feel guilty over not being able to have more children. Having her pay half the mortgage for his house and then cheating on her. He made the bed, let him lay in it. Commenter 4. NTA. Your brother is a cheater and a fool. Was Melinda a bit underhanded? Arguably yes. Does she deserve a share of the house in return for all she paid into it, not to mention 12 years of domestic and emotional labor? Arguably also yes, but when it comes to whether you should shell out for your brother's legal fees, the answer is an unequivocal no. He was a huge and ridiculously careless with his most significant asset, and that's not your responsibility to fix. He's an adult. He needs to fix his own mistake. Commenter 5, NTA. George made bad choices and is responsible for the mess that followed. Further, he is not that intelligent. If he is signing something without reading it, Melinda may have acted underhanded. But I'm not mad at her about it, because George used her. He strung her along and let her pay rent and mortgage. She is entitled to this share, as she sacrificed years for him. She could have found someone better. She now can. But still, the years she wasted on him will never come back. Anyway, George reaped what he had sowed. It's deserved. And I wouldn't want to pay for his mistake either. Update, quick recap. Brother and mother are trying to guilt me into giving my brother money to pay for an attorney in order to prevent brother's former long-term live-in girlfriend from getting a payout after he claims she tricked him into signing documents making her a partial owner. Okay, there's been an update, and I have to say, while I still don't think my brother is an idiot overall, he is a lazy and very arrogant dumbass. I also wanted to clarify a few things as well. Melinda and my brother were in a relationship for 12 years, but they only started living together for about 9 to 10 years. Also, the documents were signed in the presence of a notary who asked my brother if he understood the context of the documents, and he affirmed that he did. And to the person who said that my brother was house poor, you hit the nail on the hammer. My brother spent the majority of his inheritance and savings on buying that house, and it barely had any furniture in it. When Melinda moved in, she paid to have it furnished on top of splitting the utilities and paying rent. Now onto the new stuff. When my brother's house needed fixing, he let Melinda do the grunt work of finding reputable establishments to consider. Because he didn't want to be bothered, Melinda presented him with up to 3 options, and convinced him to go with company and not real name, because they were offering seasonal discounts for first-time customers and/or new owners for specific items. Melinda's plan to get the both discounts was to present it as if she recently became the partial owner, and had my brother email Company A to see if they'd be willing to accept that. Company A responded that if Melinda recently became part owner of the house, then they'd be willing to give a partial discount as a courtesy. Company A was a small business, but with an excellent reputation in terms of service, quality of work, and meeting deadlines, so my brother was all in. What my brother didn't realize was that Company A went by the honor system when it came to Melinda and my brother's case, but on their website, It did say proper document needed to be shown, so Melinda told my brother that she'd come up with fake documents that he could sign in the presence of a notary that she knew through a friend who was supposed to be in on the scam. They weren't. But that's what she told my brother. The actual signing was at their home in front of the notary, and two people from Company A who were initially there to survey the area. So basically my brother thought that he and Melinda were scamming Company A, when in reality Melinda was scamming him. He thought the documents he was signing were fake, but they were real. And that's his defense. This is why he had trouble finding a lawyer. Wouldn't blame anyone here who thought that this was fake because WTF. So anyway, I'm not going to give him the money, but I will give him a list of realtors. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. Are you taking your brother's word for how the legal paper situation can about, or have you talked to his ex? I'll bet their explanations are not even similar. Reply. Melinda isn't talking to anyone who is associated with my brother right now. She told us that if we insist on talking to her to email her, and if we want to meet her in person, it will be in a neutral setting, and that she will record anything we have to say. Commenter 2. How is your mother taking his side? Reply. She's a pick-me boy mom. Commenter 3. So his defense is, I thought we were scamming a company, but really she was scamming me, Your Honor. Yeah, I think it's best to stay out of this one. Commenter 4. You're right. Your brother is an idiot. You should always take things seriously when they involve your home. Commenter 5. It sounds like she did actually contribute financially to the house. After 10 years, most people are considered to be in a settled relationship. And it's not like she got part ownership then next day demanded half the sale price. Being a moron isn't considered a defense. And the whole situation is a clusterfuck of he said, she said. I think you are being very sensible to stay out of it, and not contribute towards your brother's legal fees. He's going to lose anyway, and should take the hit. There is no loophole for him to find to nullify her share of the house. And to be honest, she is probably entitled as she's been living with him for so long. He's an unreliable narrator. And after you remove all the extra crap he's saying, he basically wants her out on the street after 10 years without a penny to her name. Stories number 22. Should I confront my ex-husband about what happened with our kids this weekend, or wait until my kids are ready to talk? This is a long story, so I'm using a throwaway. I'll try to include what's relevant. I-44F was married to my ex-husband, John 47M. He's now married to Brittany 36F. I'm currently married to my husband, Kyle 37M. About 10 years ago, John and I divorced after I found out he was cheating on me with Brittany, who is now his wife. The divorce was messy. Right after we separated, Brittany made it very hard for John to stay involved with our kids. For example, when our oldest son, Henry, was about 11, he got appendicitis while on a school trip. I immediately called John to tell him what was going on. But Brittany answered his phone and told me I was a sad old woman who was trying to trick John into coming back to me. I hung up and drove 4 hours to Philadelphia to be with our son in the hospital alone. The next day, John called and told me I had disrespected his boundaries by calling during his private getaway. I was furious. When I explained that our son had appendicitis, he got angry that I didn't tell him sooner. I hung up. I wasn't going to deal with the gaslighting. When I got home, John and Brittany confronted me at church, accusing me of ruining their vacation and hiding details about our son's medical emergency. Brittany lectured me about hurting John and playing malicious games. I ignored them. That was when I started to see a pattern. About a year later, John sat our 3 kids down and told them he needed to focus on his new family so he could be a better man and father. Then he basically disappeared. It was hard on the kids, so I got them into therapy and decided to make a fresh start. I finished my degree, moved us to a new state, and focused on rebuilding. Life eventually got much better. I met Kyle, who is younger than me but kind, mature, and wonderful with my kids. We married 5 years ago and now have 3 more children together. We also fostered and later adopted 2 more kids. Kyle and I always dreamed of having a big family. His business took off, I built my career, and we recently bought a small farm. Our dream home for the last 5 years. Life has been genuinely good. Of course, no marriage is perfect, but we're happy. Then about a month ago, Kyle was hosting a business party, and guess who was catering it? John. I was completely blindsided. We hadn't spoken in years. He only sends the occasional birthday or holiday card. He looked just as shocked to see me. A week later, John's mother-me kids' grandmother called out of the blue. She said she missed the kids and wanted to see them. I thought maybe seeing John again had reminded her of us. And I've always wanted my kids to have a connection with their dad's side. So I agreed to let them visit for the weekend. But by Saturday, halfway through the visit, my oldest called me and said, "Mom, can you come get us now?" He sounded serious, and he's not one to overreact. I drove over immediately. All three kids were visibly upset. They didn't want to talk about what happened yet, and I'm respecting that. But I'm deeply concerned, now I'm torn. Should I confront John and his mother to find out what happened? Or wait until my kids are ready to tell me themselves? Stories number 23. Why does my husband require step-by-step instructions from me for every project? My elderly father-in-law is in the hospital. He has been stubbornly independent until now. For a couple of years now, I've been pushing my husband to get his dad to accept our help with cleaning and other tasks. He said his dad would ask if needed help. Spoiler alert, he needed help but didn't ask. And now it's my job to make up for years of inaction. We didn't realize how bad his house has gotten because he always insisted on visiting our house and didn't want us to come over. His house is so dirty and full of junk. He'd piled boxes of recycling in pretty much every room, presumably because it was too much work to carry out. I wouldn't say it was a hoarding situation, but some areas only had a narrow path lined by boxes. There are mouse droppings everywhere. They are all over the kitchen counter, in the pantry, even in the silverware drawer. I am currently unemployed, so I have more time to clean and have agreed to tackle this mess. Luckily, his house is pretty small, but I've already spent days over there and still have so much to do. I have cleaned out all trash and recycling on the main floor, deep cleaned the bathroom, and cleaned out the fridge and pantry. He has one small bathroom, but it was so filthy that it took me 5 hours to clean. Besides cleaning, I'm trapping mice, managing repairs at his house to prevent mice, doing his laundry, running errands for him, sorting through literal years of mail, advocating for him at the hospital, and spending at least a couple of hours visiting with him each day. My own house needs cleaning, I need to get groceries, the lawn needs to be mowed and leaves raked. I'd ordered a bunch of tulips in the spring that I probably won't get planted now. My car still needs to go in for repairs. I don't have time to eat, let alone figure out something for dinner. I'm beat. I asked my husband to come help me for a couple of hours. This is his childhood home, and his dad. He knows his dad's routines better than I do, where stuff goes, what he uses and what should be tossed, right? Apparently not. He asks me what to do. I tell him what I've already done and what we still need to do. I tell him which areas have been disinfected due to the droppings. Once I've finished listing what we need to do, I asked him what he wanted to do. He asked me to tell him what to do. Fine. I gave him a task. He proceeded to set items I'd already cleaned directly into piles of mouse droppings. When I complained, he got frustrated. I had literally just told him what areas were and were not clean. He tells me that he can't do the right thing in my eyes, and to give him more detailed instructions. He just kept making more work for me and asking me questions like, should I use a paper towel to clean this? I don't understand why he can't just do these things. It's not like I have the secret instruction book. I basically gave up on his help and sent him down to clean recycling out of the basement, which wasn't really necessary because his dad can't do the stairs, but at least it will give us some space for things we want to get out of the way. Sorry for the rant, I really shouldn't complain. He works hard and does a lot for us, and normally my project list and to-dos are manageable. But why does he need me to make up step-by-step instructions? I can figure these things out, why can't he? Knowing my husband, this is not weaponized incompetence. It's just plain old incompetence. Ugh. Stories number 24. Aita for telling my adult stepdaughter that her siblings weren't the golden child, they just had different moms and ages. I-34F was scrolling Facebook the other day when I came across a post by one of my stepdaughters, who we'll call M20F, talking about how difficult it is growing up with siblings that are the golden child and how hard it was not getting what they got and getting punished for things that no one else was. Her siblings H16F, D12M, B10M both have different moms. Their dad is 42M, B and D are my sons, and H is from another woman who is not Ms. Mom. H spent most of her time at our house during the week and weekends because of her mom's work schedule when she was younger, and couldn't stay home alone. B and D obviously live with us. M was only with us every weekend because her mother moved across the county and the courts wouldn't award him fully custody, and the distance made any kind of true 50-50 impractical for everyone involved. She has always resented her siblings for spending more time with their dad, and has always been the type to compare what everyone has and to want to constantly be babied. He would still ask her dad to tie her shoes and claim she couldn't do it at 11 wires, or say that she couldn't cook a ramen packet at 14, or complain at 15-16 that her younger siblings would get help making breakfast if needed, and she didn't We always believed in our household on having children do age-appropriate tasks and punishments, and she would get very upset when we didn't give in to her, wanting to be babied or be treated the exact same way as children 10 years younger than her. We tried asking her mom to get her into therapy several times, and even offered to find some way to make our schedules work to take her ourselves, but this was always refused. She was commiserating in her comments with other people who were actually abused as children, and cited several instances where her siblings were the golden child, which she refers to all 3 of her siblings as things that she cited. Her sister having more toys than her H's mom bought these. Their dad always bought them the exact same amount of stuff, H getting to carve pumpkins, and she didn't. Husband is allergic to pumpkins, H carved pumpkins. With her mom, her getting grounded for a day for hitting, while her sister didn't. Remember this one because she held on to it for a while. She was 8 at the time, I think, and her sister had just turned 4, and she left a mark on her D, and B having nicer stuff than her. Everything nice we ever bought for her to this day gets ruined because she doesn't take care of her stuff. The boys have had taken care of their possessions instilled in them since birth BC. That's how I was raised, and we refuse to replace things that are supposed to last years within months, just because the other kids have them and kept up with them. D and B. Going on family vacations with Usher mom wouldn't let us take her out of state. H always having the newest tablet, phone. Again, her mom buys these things and other stuff around that nature. Granted, her mom has 2 other kids besides M and IDK, how she treated them. But her whole post revolved mostly around her grievances with her siblings and out household. Her dad always bought all the kids the same amount, ancient type of thing when it came to our household. We currently pay for her college, so I commented on the post that we always bought them the same stuff for our household and that her sister isn't the golden child for having a mom who spoiled her, and her brothers aren't golden children for having parents that stayed together or for being treated as their age while she was also expected to act her age. She deleted my comment and later texted me that I embarrassed her, and I don't know what it's like to be her and to watch her siblings do all the things she wanted to do. In more or less words, I told her that I understand it sucks that your mom didn't do as much as you wished she did, but her siblings aren't the golden child, they just have different moms, and we expected everyone to act their age. That I wasn't going to treat a 9-year-old like a baby, because they feel like it's not fair to have to act their age, and that we love her, but she's an adult now and she needs to get over her resentment or go to therapy, not post harmful things about our family on the internet. Now she says she's going to go low contact with me and her dad for not ensuring her childhood was as fair as her siblings. So Ada, I feel like I was just being real with her, but maybe I was too harsh. Ada, what is with Reddit and assuming every age gap is nefarious and will lead to divorce? BM1 and 2 are both also 42. We just so happened to click while we met at work at our jobs. We held equal position in. There is no power imbalance. We were both in our 20s. Why are we trying to manifest more broken households? Second, Ida, I appreciate those who do see my side, but mind you, my SDS issues are caused by trauma and calling her names isn't great. She can have made a misguided post without being a bad person. And I'm not going to stop paying for college because she has misdirected feelings. My giving her a head start in life is unconditional on the current state of our relationship, just like it is for all the children at Ida. She reached out a couple hours ago on the phone and said that she's been doing some thinking and that she thinks she was unfair in putting those things out there in that manner, and that she just can't stop feeling resentment towards all of her siblings because of the way she grew up. But that she knows that some of that way she's feeling aren't right. But she didn't know how to express how she's feeling, but telling family and friends that we didn't do anything for her wasn't right. I told her I understand that it was hard living the life that she did, and should have reached out in private instead of correcting her in public. I asked her if she wanted to open up more about what it was like at her mom's house, and she told us a few things. One being that her mom was constantly screaming at them for being children, and that she would make food they didn't like and force them to sit at the table and eat, and wouldn't let them get up to take a drink, and that she wasn't quite ready to relive what she everything went through. She asked if we would help get her into counseling, and we told her of course we'd pay whatever co-pays. Just mail the bill to us. She told us she hasn't been around, because she says that she can't handle being near kids who got to live a life not dealing with what she went through, and asked if we could start to spend some time together alone while she started working out her own issues. We let her know as long as she let us know ahead of time so we could get childcare for the younger kids, we'd love to do that. Sorry for everyone on Reddit who has a no-contact boner, but the TL. Doctor is that everyone apologized and we're making plans as a family to work through it. Comments. Commenter 1. This is really complex. The little girl in her just wanted to feel secure with her position in the family when she was growing up. Even if your husband felt he was meeting this basic need, maybe he missed the mark. What you probably should do is talk to her and attempt to understand how her childhood affected her, and what you guys can now do as a family to ensure a healthier adult relationship. Commenter 2. Why the hell do people want to air their private family business on Facebook? I hate that shit. I think you shouldn't have responded on Facebook, and your comments may be true, but seemed, harsh. Also, her father should be addressing the issues. Where in the hell does he stand in all this? I know a lot of people are giving you shit because you were trying to treat all the kids the same, which is valid and fair in theory. Where the problem lies is that really they were not the same in the time spent in the household. She felt like an outsider and probably unsure of her place. Guessing she may have acted out more when she was there to get attention. She didn't have the same time with her father, and knowing that he should have reassured her and made sure she knew that she was loved and that he fought for her, but ultimately lost in court. That wasn't your job, but his. She needs therapy, not to whine on social media because her sister got more stuff, which she knew you didn't provide, or that her brothers lived with their parents, neither which you could control. She also needs to have a full adult conversation with her father and mother about the choices made that led to the family dynamic. Does she truly know and understand her mother refused to allow her to go on family vacations, or to allow more time? Her feelings may be valid, but they are also skewed through the lens of a child and not an adult. She was jealous and insecure as a child, which again, valid and understood, but it doesn't seem anyone has addressed this in any meaningful way. Assuming her mother never wanted to get her therapy. But she's a damn adult now, so if she can afford it. Also, colleges have counselors for free. She needs to go. I get the urge to defend yourself and your family, but take a step back and address the issues privately. Honestly, you don't need to address them at all, unless it directly impacts the daily lives of you and the other kids. Her father needs to address the issues. Realistically, her problems are with him. Everyone else is just cannon fodder and collateral damage. Commenter 3. What do you genuinely expect a young woman who feels resentful to say or do when her stepmother involves herself in a discussion expressing her frustrations at her childhood? Of course she sees them as golden siblings, despite them not accurately fitting the description. She felt unwanted and unloved regardless of how you see it, and you are probably right. But she doesn't see it that way. It's not your responsibility to critique her. You are not her parent. You made a mistake by not letting your husband address this. It's on him to reassure her of his love and care for her. Did your husband ever fight in court to get her therapy? Did he fight in court for more time with her? I don't think you helped at all, even if you're completely right. She sees this as a meddling stepmother, when instead you could have reached out with care and love. She is the weaker party in this relationship, unfortunately. Commenter 4. I think it's very clear why she wanted to be babied, and to punish her for this was at least insensitive. You didn't take seriously her needs as a child, and tried to expect from her the same behavior and attitude as kids from healthy family sorry situations. After so many years, and you still didn't understand. There's not one note of kindness or love in your post. After so many years of being a step-parent, she's not okay victimizing herself like that. But at least it's clear why she's doing it. Why are you being so cold and vindictive? Stories number 25. My cat has trained me and I just now realized it. I think my cat might be running my entire life. And I didn't even notice until this week. Let me back up a bit. I got my cat, a fluffy gray and white menace named Biscuit, 3 years ago when I was going through a breakup. I'd been living with my girlfriend at the time, Amanda, and when we split, she took the dog and left me with a quiet apartment and an uncomfortable amount of free time. I told myself getting a cat would fill that empty space. Something low maintenance, something independent, something that wouldn't care if I stayed in bed all weekend. Yeah, that was the plan. What actually happened was that I accidentally adopted the most manipulative, food-obsessed, emotionally aware creature on Earth. When I first brought Biscuit home from the shelter, she was tiny, all paws and attitude. I remember sitting on the kitchen floor trying to coax her out of the carrier, whispering like an idiot, "It's okay, little girl. You're safe now." She blinked at me like she was already assessing my weaknesses. By the end of that first week, she had me trained to open the window blinds at sunrise. Not because she needed sunlight. No, because she liked to sit on the sill and watch me stumble around half asleep trying to feed her before work. It was cute at first. Then it became a routine. Then it became law every morning, 6:04 a.m. exactly. Biscuit jumps on my chest like she's a furry alarm clock that hates the snooze button. If I try to roll over, she chirps and starts batting my face with her paw. If I ignore her, she escalates to the knock over your water glass tactic, and the worst part? It works, every single time. My friends think it's hilarious. My buddy Dylan came over one weekend to watch a game. We ordered pizza and were just settling in when Biscuit hopped up on the arm of the couch and started staring at me. You know that cat stare? The slow, unblinking, soul-piercing one that feels like an interrogation? I tried to ignore her. Dylan was mid-sentence and I'm nodding along while she's just staring. Then she does the slow head tilt. Meows once. Dylan's like, "Dude, your cat wants something," I said. "She's fine. She just ate." Then she meowed again, louder this time. And I swear she gave me this look like, "Oh, you're really going to embarrass me in front of company?" So I got up and gave her a few treats. Dylan's laughing his head off and says, "You realize you just lost that negotiation, right?" I tried to defend myself. "She's just persistent." He goes, "No, man. She's got you on a schedule." I brushed it off, but it stuck with me. Over time, I started noticing how she was manipulating me in more subtle ways. If I was working from home and on a Zoom call, she'd jump onto my keyboard only when I was unmuted. She'd paw at the spacebar like she knew exactly how to sabotage me. At first, I thought it was coincidence, but after a while, I realized she'd learned my meeting patterns. She'd nap all morning. Then about 10 minutes before my afternoon call, she'd start stretching, grooming herself, and trotting into view like she was clocking in for work. I remember one day, my coworker Jess asked, "Does your cat always attend the meetings?" Without missing a beat, I said, "She's the manager now." Everyone laughed. Biscuit blinked at the camera like she knew exactly what we were saying. But here's where it gets weird. Over time, my entire routine started revolving around her. Not consciously, just little shifts that added up. I started going to bed earlier because if I didn't, she'd start running laps around the apartment at midnight. She'd sprint across the couch, launch off the windowsill, knock over my sneakers. Pure chaos. I tried shutting her out of the bedroom once. Never again. The sounds she made? Ungodly, scratching, yowling, pawing at the door like she was trying to tunnel through it. I think she yowled for 45 straight minutes that night. By the end, I caved. Now she sleeps at the foot of my bed every night, like a smug little queen who knows she won the war. I didn't realize just how deep her control went until I started dating again. About 6 months ago, I met Laura through a mutual friend. She's smart, funny, and very much a dog person. On our third date, she came over for dinner. Things were going great. Candles, wine, the whole cliché setup. Then Biscuit entered the scene. She jumped up on the table, tail high, and sat directly between us, staring at Laura like she was screening her for approval. I laughed it off and said, "Don't mind her. She's just curious," but Laura laughed and said, "Oh, she's jealous." The second she reached over to pet Biscuit, the cat swiped at her, not a full-on attack, but a quick warning like, "Touch my human and die." I was mortified. Laura pulled back her hand, more amused than mad. "Wow, possessive much?" she said. Biscuit jumped down and strutted away like she'd made her point. After that night, Laura started jokingly calling her the gatekeeper, and, to be fair, Biscuit lived up to the name. Every time Laura came over, Biscuit would plant herself in the doorway. Not hissing or angry, just silently watching. Over time, though, something shifted. Laura started bringing treats, then toys, then one of those feather wands. It was like watching a political truce unfold. One night, I came home from work and found Laura sitting cross-legged on the floor, Biscuit in her lap, purring like a jet engine. I asked, "How did you manage that?" Laura smiled. "You just have to let her think it's her idea." That sentence hit me harder than it should have, because it was exactly how Biscuit had been handling me this entire time. I started reflecting on all the ways she'd shaped my habits. I meal prepped on Sundays because she'd sit on the counter watching me cook. Waiting for her little sliver of chicken, I cleaned my apartment more because she hated clutter. Seriously, if I left a pile of clothes on the couch, she'd sit on it and meow until I moved it. Even my work breaks were dictated by her nap schedule. When she'd curl up by the window around 2 p.m., I'd automatically get up to stretch or grab coffee. It was like she had silently optimized my life without me realizing it. Then last month, I went on a short business trip to Chicago. First time I'd been away from her for more than a weekend. My neighbor, Kelly, agreed to cat sit. She's a vet tech, so I trusted her completely. I left detailed instructions. feeding schedule, litter box notes. Even which window Biscuit liked open during the day. Kelly texted me the first night. She's fine. Ate dinner, used the litter box, then sat by the door for an hour like she was waiting for you. Cute, right? By day 3, Kelly sent, so, does she always ignore her food until exactly 6 p.m.? Yes, she does. When I got home, Biscuit greeted me like I'd been gone for 10 years. Meowing, rubbing against my legs, following me from room to room. I sat down on the couch, exhausted, and she immediately climbed onto my lap. It was the first time I'd realized how much that apartment belonged to her, not me. A few days later, I was talking to my sister Megan about it. She's got 2 kids and a golden retriever, so she's not easily impressed by pet drama, I told her. I think Biscuit's actually trained me, she laughed and said. That's what cats do, you just realized late. But that night, lying in bed with Biscuit curled against my feet, I kept thinking about it. I used to think I was the caretaker, that I'd rescued her, that I was the one setting the rules, but in reality, she'd been quietly shaping me into a better version of myself. More structured, more observant, more patient. All those annoying behaviors, they'd built a rhythm into my days that I didn't have before. I remember one morning, maybe a week ago, I woke up late. No alarm, no Biscuit jumping on me. I panicked for a second, thinking something was wrong. Turns out, she was sitting by the window, just watching the sunrise. When I walked over, she looked up at me, meowed softly and leaned into my leg. And I realized she didn't need to train me anymore. I was already on the schedule. Now, my days are basically synchronized to a 10-pound animal. I wake up when she does, eat around her feeding time, take breaks when she naps, and somehow my life feels balanced. Laura jokes that Biscuit turned me into a functional adult. She's not wrong. Even my therapist, Dr. Nolan, noticed the change. He said, "You sound calmer lately. What changed?" I told him, honestly, I think it's the cat. He laughed. But I meant it, because Biscuit taught me the thing I couldn't figure out on my own. Consistency. Not the forced kind, not the grind, just natural, quiet consistency. She doesn't overthink it. She doesn't negotiate with herself. She just does what she does. Every single day, and somehow by living alongside her, I learned to do the same. Last night, Laura came over for dinner again. Biscuit sat on the table as usual, but this time, she didn't interrupt. She just watched us, tail flicking lazily, as if to say, I approve. After Laura left, Biscuit jumped into my lap and started purring. I looked down at her and said, "You really got me figured out, don't you?" She blinked, slow and smug, like she was saying, finally. So yeah, I used to think I trained my cat. Turns out, she was the teacher all along. Update, 1 year later, and my cat is still running the show. I didn't expect so many people to read my first post. Honestly, I wrote it on a quiet Sunday morning with Biscuit sitting on my keyboard, obviously. Mostly as a joke about how my cat had me perfectly trained. But then it blew up, and I started getting comments like, "Cats are tiny therapists in fur coats," and "You think you own a cat? That's adorable." So it's been a little over a year since I wrote that, and Biscuit's reign of gentle psychological domination continues. Only now it's evolved, because somewhere between last spring and now, she didn't just train me, she trained both me and my girlfriend, Laura. Laura and I have been living together for 6 months. I know, big step. We didn't plan it exactly. Her apartment lease ended, and it just felt natural. The first conversation we had about it went something like this. Laura, well, it makes sense. We're basically always together anyway. Me, yeah, totally. Biscuit from the corner. Glaring, we had to introduce Laura to the household properly, which, in Biscuit's mind, meant a month-long probation period. At first, Biscuit tolerated her, as in she didn't hiss, but she did follow Laura everywhere with suspicious eyes. If Laura tried to feed her, Biscuit would sit there and wait until I confirmed it was acceptable food. It was like she needed written approval from her original human. But slowly, Biscuit started coming around. Laura brought home a heated cat bed one day, and that sealed the deal. Within a week, Biscuit was sleeping in that thing like royalty, giving Laura the occasional blink of acknowledgement, which, in cat language, is basically, "You may live, now." They're inseparable. I swear Laura gets more affection than I do. One night I came home late from a freelance project and walked into the apartment to find Laura on the couch, wrapped in a blanket. Biscuit curled up on her chest. They were watching some baking show, and Biscuit was staring at the screen like she had strong opinions about meringue techniques. I said, "Hey, traitor, Laura shushed me. She just started purring. Don't ruin it. And that's when it hit me. Biscuit had not only accepted Laura, she'd absorbed her into the system. Now our entire household runs on what we call Biscuit Standard Time. Wake up, 6:03 a.m. Breakfast for her. Immediately, coffee for us. After she's been served, couch cuddles. 8 p.m. Sharp. Any deviation results in loud complaints and passive-aggressive staring. The funniest thing, though, is how much Laura's behavior has started mirroring mine. She used to laugh when I said Biscuit had trained me. Now she's doing the same stuff. Example. I used to joke that Biscuit demands I keep the apartment tidy. Laura used to roll her eyes. Now she's the one saying, "You know Biscuit won't like it if there's laundry on the couch." We've both become trained by a 10-pound fur dictator. And honestly, we love it, because here's the thing. Life has this steady rhythm now, a quiet, predictable comfort that neither of us had before. It's been a chaotic year otherwise. I left my old marketing job and started freelancing full-time. The first few months were rough. Lots of uncertainty, inconsistent paychecks, and imposter syndrome out the ears. There were nights where I'd be sitting at my desk at 1 a.m. staring at spreadsheets, wondering if I'd made a huge mistake. But without fail, Biscuit would appear. She'd hop onto the desk, step directly onto my mouse, and sit down. Sometimes she'd just look at me until I got up. At first I thought she was being annoying. Then I realized she was forcing me to take breaks. I started keeping a note taped above my monitor. If the cat thinks you need a break, you probably do. It's funny how that little thing helped me manage stress better than any productivity hack. Around summer, Biscuit got sick for the first time. Nothing too serious. But she started sneezing a lot and stopped eating for a day. It scared the hell out of me. We took her to the vet, Dr. Peters, who's this older guy with the calmest voice in the world. He did a quick exam, ran a few tests, and said it was probably an upper respiratory infection. Nothing life-threatening, just needed meds and rest. But seeing her like that, tiny, quiet, curled in a towel on the exam table, wrecked me. Laura was the calm one. She stroked Biscuit's head and whispered, "You're okay, little boss." Biscuit looked up, gave a weak chirp, and I swear I almost cried in the vet's office. She recovered fast, but that whole week changed something in me. I realized how much of my life was built around her little routines, how much emotional grounding she gave me without me even noticing. By fall, she was back to her usual tyrannical self. She developed a new habit, dragging one of Laura's socks into the living room every night. Not both, just one. We couldn't figure out why. At first, we thought it was a weird fetching instinct. Then one night, we noticed she only did it when one of us was out late. Like she was bringing something of ours into the main room to keep it safe. Laura joked that Biscuit was creating a sock-based emotional support system. It's strange, but now if I come home after midnight, I half expect to find a single sock in the middle of the rug. Her little protest banner. The holidays were a blur. We visited my family in Ohio for a week and left Biscuit with Laura's friend Rachel, who cat sat. Rachel sent us pictures every day. Biscuit sitting by the door, looking dramatically betrayed. When we got back, Biscuit ignored us for 24 hours straight. Full cold shoulder, wouldn't make eye contact, wouldn't sit with us, wouldn't even take treats. We were exiled. Eventually, she forgave us after 3 servings of wet food and 1 new catnip toy. But that little episode made me realize how deeply we'd become a 3-member family unit. We can joke all we want, but it's true. She's the emotional heartbeat of our home. A few weeks ago, I was on the phone with my sister Megan. She asked, "So, how's life with your tiny dictator?" I laughed and said, "She's mellowed out." Then Biscuit, as if on cue, knocked my pen off the table. Megan heard it and said, "Never mind. But honestly, she has mellowed. Or maybe we've just caught up to her rhythm. The constant training, the routines, the silent expectations. It's not manipulation anymore. It's coexistence. She knows us, and we know her. She doesn't need to control everything, because she already knows we'll meet her halfway. Sometimes, on quiet mornings, I'll wake up and just watch her watching the world from the window. The same spot she claimed the first week I brought her home. She'll flick her tail, squint at the sunlight, and glance back at me like, "You've learned well, human." And I guess I have. Because of that cat. I go to bed on time. I wake up early. I work steadily, I clean regularly, I live more intentionally. Biscuit didn't just train me, she rehabilitated me. Laura said something last week that stuck with me. Maybe Biscuit saw potential in you when you didn't. That might sound ridiculous, but I think she's right. So yeah, 1 year later, my cat's still in charge. But now it feels less like I'm being ruled, and more like I'm being guided. By this tiny, soft creature who somehow taught me how to have a stable, happy life. She still demands her meals at exact times, still interrupts Zoom calls, still occasionally brings socks as offerings. But she also curls up next to us every night, purring like a metronome for our little life together. And if you'd told me 3 years ago that the secret to becoming a calmer, more grounded human was letting a rescue cat run my schedule, I'd have laughed now. I just call it Tuesday Final Update, the cat who built our life. It's been almost 3 years since I first wrote about Biscuit training me, and about 1.5 years since my last update. If the first post was me realizing I'd been manipulated by a 10-pound fur tyrant, and the second was about accepting my fate, then I guess this one's about gratitude. Because somewhere along the way, that cat stopped just shaping my habits. She shaped my entire life. Laura and I got married last spring. It was small. Backyard ceremony, maybe 30 people, string lights, and way too many mason jars. We wanted to include Biscuit, but we both knew she wouldn't tolerate the chaos. So instead, we printed her face on the cocktail napkins and named one of the drinks the Biscuit Sour. When we got home that night, still in our wedding clothes, Biscuit met us at the door like she always does. She sniffed Laura's dress, looked unimpressed, and then curled up on the gift table like she was auditing our registry. It was perfect. That night, when Laura fell asleep, Biscuit jumped onto my chest like she used to, pressed her nose to mine, and purred. And I swear, it felt like she was saying, "You did good, human." About 6 months later, we moved out of the city. Our old apartment had been great, but between my freelance work and Laura's remote design job, we wanted more space and a yard for potential future plans. More on that. In a minute, we found a small house in Vermont. Nothing fancy, just a cozy place with big windows and a fireplace. When we first brought Biscuit there, she spent the entire day exploring every corner, tail high like she was personally inspecting her new kingdom. She approved immediately. Now every morning, she sits in the bay window overlooking the trees. If I get up before sunrise, she follows me to the kitchen, watching as I make coffee, her fur glowing orange in the early light. It's our ritual, same as always. Freelance life has stabilized. I built up a solid client list, and Laura started her own Etsy shop for digital art prints. We both work from home now, which basically means Biscuit supervises us full-time. She's got 3 designated offices, the windowsill by my desk, the fleece blanket by Laura's monitor, and the forbidden but inevitably occupied printer tray. Sometimes during long workdays, I'll glance over and see her sleeping, completely relaxed, not a care in the world. And it resets me, reminds me to breathe. It's wild how much of our calm comes from that cat's presence. We did eventually adopt a second pet. Yeah, I know. Big risk. We weren't sure Biscuit would tolerate it, but we decided to foster first, just to see. A local shelter had a small orange kitten named Pumpkin. He was all energy and zero sense of self-preservation. The complete opposite of Biscuit's composed, queenly vibe. When we brought him home, Biscuit hissed once, then stalked off like, "You've got to be kidding me." The first few days were tense. She'd sit on top of the bookshelf and glare down at him like an old lady judging a loud teenager. But slowly, she warmed up. Pumpkin followed her everywhere, mimicking her movements, even her meows. It was ridiculous, like watching a furry apprentice shadowing the master. Now they nap together on the couch, and she licks his head like she's teaching him the ancient ways of cat dominance. Laura jokes that we didn't get a second cat. Biscuit got an assistant. There was one night a few months ago that kind of sums up how far we've come. It was snowing hard, the power went out, and the house went completely dark except for the fire. Laura was asleep on the couch, Pumpkin was curled under her arm, and Biscuit was perched on the windowsill, Watching the storm, I sat there, wrapped in a blanket, just listening to the wind and their breathing. And for the first time in my life, I felt completely content, not happy in the flashy, movie moment kind of way, and just settled, peaceful. I realized that every major decision that led me there, adopting Biscuit, dating Laura, leaving the city, working for myself, all started with one little cat and her relentless insistence on structure, attention and care. She trained me, yeah, but she'd also taught me how to build something worth being trained for. Biscuit's getting older now. She's 7, maybe 8. She moves a little slower, naps a little longer. But she's still sharp. She still meows if breakfast is late by even 2 minutes. Still yells at the mail carrier. Still tries to sit on my laptop whenever I open it. But now Pumpkin takes over when she's tired, pestering us, demanding playtime, keeping the system running. It's like Biscuit trained him. 2. The cycle continues. The other day, I was working on an article about habit formation. Ironic. I know, and I wrote this sentence without thinking. Discipline isn't about force. It's about rhythm. When I read it back, I laughed, because it sounded exactly like something Biscuit would say if she could talk. That cat has been teaching me that lesson since day one. I used to think discipline was this big dramatic thing. Getting your life together, setting goals, sticking to routines, but Biscuit taught me it's just small, steady patterns of care. Feed yourself, rest, pay attention, be consistent. That's it, that's the whole code. Last week, Laura and I were sitting outside on the porch with our coffee. Biscuit was in her window, Pumpkin was chasing a leaf, and the world was quiet. Laura said, "You realize she kind of built this life for us, right?" And I smiled and said, "Yeah, she really did. Because without her, I don't think I would have learned to slow down, or to care about the tiny things, or to build a home that feels peaceful." She taught me to get up early, clean my space, breathe between tasks, and love something with consistency. She taught me how to show up, not just for her, but for myself. So final update, Biscuit still runs the house, Pumpkin's in training, Laura and I are married, and I'm finally living a life that feels quiet in all the right ways. Every morning, Biscuit still sits by that same window, watching the sun climb over the trees. Sometimes I'll sit beside her, sip my coffee, and think about how a rescue cat who just wanted breakfast on time somehow rescued me from myself. And as the light hits her fur, she'll glance up at me with that slow blink. The same one from the very first day. Like she's saying, "Good human,